Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, etc., etc. I'm just glad that you're all here doing it with me. There's 300 of you here waiting already. I am so sorry for being late, but it's, as you will see as the next 2 hours unfolds, maybe till 2 hours plus, there was an absolute just F ton of things to set up here to get right where we needed it to be so that we can address kind of the latest developments over the past week. This is one of these interesting situations, and it's something that I deal with all the time in my job doing maritime related stuff like this. Nothing really happens, but a lot of things happen. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it kind of does if you know. But as you'll see, there's just a lot of stuff going on right now, and I'm glad that all of you are here. And there's so much to catch up on, and it's going to be kind of disjointed because there's so many separate facets of this that we have to look at. So if it seems like we're just kind of a bit shotgunning this a bit and we're just kind of bouncing off the walls a little bit, that's exactly what we're doing. There's really no coherent order that things are happening in. It's just going to be encapsulated, isolated little sections of this big issue. And hopefully we'll be able to get through most of it or all of it before the end of the normal 2 hours is scheduled. And then if there's time and interest, we'll open it up to questions from you guys. We'll have a little question and answer session. I'll do my best to answer questions. So hopefully we'll be able to, if anybody else has these ideas that this was somehow a targeted attack, if this is somehow a government operation, or if it was somehow, intentional, hopefully this will further again isolate you from the rest of the normal, smart thinking, intelligent people on planet Earth that can accept the fact that accidents do happen. And to that end, we have our like and subscribe poll here today. Everybody take the like and subscribe poll. After you've hit the like button, we've already got 189 likes and we got 400 concurrent viewers. 200 of you haven't done your job. Amongst the 200 of you that haven't done your job, I would ask all of you to get down there and do it. And I'm sure some of you haven't hit the subscribe button. If you have, please hit the subscribe. If you haven't, please hit the subscribe button. And if you have, just double check to make sure you still are subscribed. I know we haven't really done anything other than be late, which isn't really fostering the hitting the like button attitude, but I promise you we'll do something you'll like eventually. And take a risk with me. Subscribe. You won't regret. Well, you might regret it, but don't unsubscribe if you do. Just leave it there and go away. All right, our like and subscribe poll today, which is just our cheesy little poll to remind you to hit that like button and subscribe. This accident was, your three choices are a terrible accident. Your second choice is, no, seriously, it was only an accident. And your third choice is, I have a wrong and uninformed opinion. So those are your only three options, really, when it all boils down to it. I know other people online in the maritime industry. And see, this is the interesting thing. Let's address it's all some sort of op, whether it's a conspiracy, whether it's a government, targeted attack, whether it's an external target attack, whether it's a terrorist attack. Notice how nobody, like literally nobody, not a single soul that has experience with ships or is otherwise involved in the maritime industry, say that this is anything other than an accident. That should be a big clue that nobody was seriously involved nobody on planet Earth that is seriously involved in the maritime industry who would know about the details and intricacies of such things, say this is anything other than an accident. But no, some guy out in the middle of, BF Utah is like, man, I know this is the government out there. That government, they got the discern, and they go to Switzerland, and then they get everything. And HARP comes down and blasts the ray down there, and then that kind of hacks into the computer system that's not hackable, really. And then somehow, without power, they give the ship these orders to do stuff. Those are the only people that are saying it's a conspiracy. All right, got that out of my system. We're we're good now. That was cathartic. I've been waiting to say that for a while now. Bernanco says, I don't know, Jeff. That sounds pretty based. All right. Legalize says Campsite Z. Are you unaware of the fact that exact same crash? Are you unaware of the fact that exact same crash ship now has crashed before this? Look, it happened, and it was leaving port in the back end. So we'll talk about it a little bit later. It scraped along the side of a pier. In my practice, in my job, in my firm, doing maritime matters, we've had the same ships involved in 3 or 4 accidents, and the accident that happened previously, none of the crew were the same. There was no. The crews rotate. You get new things in. Accidents are different. I mean, there was one ship that literally, I think it was the 4th time that it was involved in some sort of incident. All different incidents. It's just when you go, oh my God, is that ship again? But scraping along the side of a deck and having it's along a dock, that's not a big deal. It's a big deal if you own the dock and it costs the ship owner a lot of money. But yeah, accidents happen. These are gigantic ships that are parking against giant pieces of concrete next to giant cranes. So anyway, we'll talk about those other incidents that this particular ship has been involved in a little bit later on. Dang. So we're just going to leap face first into this because there's really no other way. Damn it, Jim, you're not helping. Crews change with the CIA agents assigned remain the same. You're not helping. Stop. All right, before we jump in face first, although I said I was going to jump in face first, we have 3 things to take care of here. First, Adara the Wholesome with his first $2 super chat of the night. The sakura are in bloom. Life is good. Morning. The cherry blossoms here in Busan have just about all fallen off the trees. Kind of the places where they're still there, kind of in the shadier parts. All the places that have been getting the warm sun, they've all fallen off of the trees. So the cherry blossom season is at an end here in Busan, Korea. Tourette's Majestic, member for 8 months. Thank you very, very much for the 8 months of support. If the power randomly went out, surely it's a genuine accident. It's natural to want to blame someone when tragedies happen, but come on, people. There you go. Been there, done that. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Well, there was their video with them birds. Birds don't exist. We know that. That's a CIA op too. Pin King 554. This stream and the accident are a conspiracy. Uh-oh. Dun dun dun. You're on to me. You're on to me, buddy. Shh. Keep it quiet. Shh. Don't tell him. All right, now we're going to jump face first into this. After we read John Doe's member for 3 months, just popped up here. I'm just happy to get a Maritime Monday that isn't about a shipwreck that is Judge Grudge. Oh, about the shipwreck that is Judge Grudge. Yeah, well, that case needs some cannibalism, I think. But, all right, we're just going to start at the first of about 1 billion articles I've pulled up to update things this week. And we'll try to make a little bit of sense out of it. Like I said, there's no organized flow of information or subject. It's just kind of this subject, then this subject, maybe go back to the first subject. So bear with me on the disorganized nature of it all, because there's just so much going on. All right, let's see. Gotta embiggen this. Who owns the ship that struck? Get it out of the way here, video. Who owns the struck? The struck that shipped the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Who owns the ship that struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore? Looks like here's a happy-looking man. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger so my aged eyes can read it. Right, the collapse of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge on Tuesday, after being struck by a cargo ship has raised questions about who owns and manages the ship, as well as the potential impact on one of the busiest ports in the U.S. Called the Dolly, the 948-foot vessel, that's 1,000 feet, that's 300, sorry, not 300 football fields, 3 football fields. And it's almost the same width as an American football field. So just imagine 3 American football fields end to end, and that's the size of the ship. The 948-foot vessel that hit the bridge is managed by Synergy Marine Group, a Singapore-based company with over 660 ships under management worldwide. According to its website, that's a lot of ships. Big company. The group said the ship was operated by charter vessel company Synergy Group and chartered by Danish shipping giant Maersk. So what we're looking at is the Synergy Marine Group. They are the operators of the vessel. It's chartered by the registered owners, which is the Grace Maritime or Grace Marine, I think it is. Well, it'll pop up here in just a second. But Grace is the registered owner of the ship. They're the guys that own the car. The managers, that would be the people that operate the car. Synergy Group operates the car, and they've essentially leased it with a driver to Maersk. So the crew would be supplied by Synergy Group. I'm still not sure who the employer of the crew is. The crew could be employed by the registered owners, Grace, or they could be hired and employed by a Synergy. But one thing we do know is the crew are not hired by Maersk. The group said have operated the charter as a Synergy Group and chartered by Danish shipping giant Maersk. And chartering is essentially leasing or renting the ship either for a period of time or a single voyage. Those are the main types of charters to rent it without having to pay for the crew and do all that other stuff. Okay, which sent vehicles and people tumbling into the Patapsco River. We're horrified by what has happened in Baltimore, and our thoughts are with all of those affected. Maersk said in a statement to CBS News on Tuesday, in which it also confirmed the ship was carrying cargo for Maersk customers. The company had no crew or personnel aboard the ship. So we do know that Maersk was not the employer of the crew. The Dolly, which can carry up to 10,000 20-foot equivalent units, that's 20-foot containers, so 3-meter containers, that it can carry, I think it was 9,971 containers, I believe, is the maximum capacity. The Tees was carrying nearly 4,700 containers at the time of the collision. It was operated by a 22-person Indian crew. We're going to be talking about the Ukrainian captain that a bunch of conspiracy people were bringing up. We'll talk about them in a very, very short time. It was not immediately clear what kind of cargo the ship was carrying. The cargo was carrying every kind of cargo imaginable. Who owns and manages the Dolly? The Dolly is owned by Grace Ocean. Yeah, it wasn't Grace Marine, it was Grace Ocean. Owned by Grace Ocean Private, a Singapore-based company that provides water transportation services. And learned that apparently the owner of Grace Ocean Private is a Japanese person, a Japanese guy, and probably a Japanese company behind him as well. The ship was chartered by Danish container shipping company Maersk at the time of the collision. Synergy Marine, founded in 2006, provides a range of ship management services, including managing ships' technical components and their crews and overseeing safety. And just because they manage the crew doesn't mean that they actually hire the crew. So it would normally be them employing a crew on behalf of the registered owners, or they could be doing it themselves. That just hasn't been cleaned up or cleared up at this point. Its parent company, Unity Group Holdings International, an investment holding company, was founded in 2008 and is based in Hong Kong. The outbound ship had left Baltimore and was headed for Colombo, the capital of Sri Lanka, Synergy Marine Group said in a press release. How busy is the Port of Baltimore? In 2023, the Port of Baltimore handled a record 52.3 million tons of foreign cargo worth $80 billion. According to the Office of Maryland Governor Wes Moore, the port is also a significant provider of local jobs. If any of you saw the fantastic show, one of the best shows in the history of television, The Wire, I believe, was it season 2 or was it it was season 2, season 4, whichever one was about the Baltimore port stevedores. Great season. That'll tell you a little bit about what happens in the port of Baltimore. If you watch that, if you watched The Wire and saw the season that deals with the port workers, the union workers, season 2. Okay, yeah. Everybody, y'all got my back there. Yeah, because I couldn't remember if which one, because they handle different aspects in different seasons. So yeah, watch the stevedore season of The Wire. The top port for U.S. for sugar and gypsum imports. See, that's interesting. We talked a bit about the cars last Tuesday, but it's also the top port in the U.S. for sugar and gypsum. It is the 9th busiest port by the local. See, here's another deal. If you're going to go and try to cripple a port, why would you go for the 9th busiest? Why wouldn't you go for Houston if you were going to attack a port? Houston, where the vast majority of chemicals, like really nasty, explosive, noxious, poisonous chemicals and fuel are shipped out of. That would be a good port to go to. Why not New York? That would take out a couple of New York bridges. There'd be, why go for the 9th one in a little tiny section of the port? All vessel traffic in and out of the facility is currently suspended, although the port remains open and trucks continue to be processed within the terminals, according to a statement released by Port of Baltimore officials. And the potential economic impact, this is pure speculation. There is no way of calculating at this point what the economic damage is going to be. So we can end this there. I just wanted to talk about the ownership of the vessel at that point. So the next thing I want to look at is a statement from Synergy about the accident itself. Before we do that, let's check in to see what Tank Rat has sniped us here with 20 Legal Vices memberships. Oh dear, we were again. Maritime Monday never gets that kind of attention. Tank Rat, thank you so much for kicking us off on this April 1st with an amazing kickoff to the week, giving 20 of you lucky people a free Legal Vices membership for a month. We've currently got 745 people. When did that happen? Wow, welcome 745 people here. Let me just quickly tell you, after I thank Tank Rat here again, if you got one of the 20 Legal Vices memberships, give Tank Rat, who is a huge supporter of the show, a super special thanks. That is great. And when we get to we unlock the achievement at the $100 gifted membership or super chat mark, we unlock the emotional support potato pig dog cam. So in just a second, we'll bring on the dog cam here. We've got both of the dogs here, so we'll focus on Yoda because Yoda doesn't get much cam time. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to say your name. Go back to sleep. Let's see. Get this silly little pig dog here. We'll zoom in on him here in just a minute. Give me a quick second while we fire up the grill here. Sorry, like I said, just don't expect pig cam to happen. But it does sometimes because you're all generous. All right, there we go. This is the section of our show that we call Release the Hose. And there's Yoda. That's my compatriot Yoda. His sister Strawberry is up there on the chair. For now, we'll just keep it on sleeping Yoda. All right, people. There we go. There we go. Thank you so much, Tank Rat, for helping us unlock that achievement. We'll bring him here. There we go. Right. Your generosity is stunning. All of you. Thank you so much. And Mavia, employer of the crew, was the feds, obviously. Don't start. Don't even joke. Jinver, thank you so much for your 10 poons. Clearly, they got their mogwai wet. Okay. Just as long as they don't feed it after midnight, we're all going to be okay. Just don't feed it after midnight. Wow, that was a obscure reference. Thank you guys for your super generous support, all of you. MG Law in the house. What's up, brother? All right. For those of you that are joining us, I'm just looking over here and seeing we got almost 800 people here right now. Many of you, probably most of you, I don't know, have no idea who I am. Legal Vice is the channel name. My job is dealing with maritime law. I've been working for a maritime law firm in South Korea for, I think it's going to be 28 years. 28, 29, 28 years, I think, this August. So we're coming up on, I believe, it's 28 years. Been doing it for 28 years, and this is what I do. Ship collisions, ship accidents, cargo damage, crew injuries, ship purchases, ship financing agreements, all kinds of things like that. So this is, as to actually use a maritime phrase, this type of case is in my wheelhouse. And this is the bulk of what I do. And so I'm working, and I'm trying to get together a panel of people, probably 2 weeks down the road, because next week, finally, I know I've been talking about this literally for a year. It started right about the time we started talking about it, right about the time the Titanic exploratory, the Titan vessel had its implosion. I mentioned that I had a friend who was in the U.S. Navy who was involved in an underwater submarine incident that was quite hairy and fatal. He will be joining me next Monday. We can finally get my friend in. He's retired from the Navy, so he can talk about things. He's got some time next week, so stay tuned next Monday, where we will be talking about the USS San Francisco incident. And we'll be talking to someone who was actually on the submarine when it had its accident. But 2 weeks from now, I want to get together a panel, like of people that talk about maritime-related stuff on the internet. Hopefully, it's 2 weeks from now. We'll see how that goes. Yes, John Doe, the submariner, is coming. He'll be talking about his boat accident. All right. Yes, he is. Chaos coordinator, does it involve cannibalism? Nope, they didn't quite get that desperate, but we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. Anyway, so this is what I do. I do maritime law related things. I investigate accidents and write reports about them and do all these things all day. Been doing it for about 28 years. With that in mind, let's get back to the stories here. It's all about the stories, not about me, but I'm grateful and so thankful that 800 of you are here. And if you like what you're hearing, if you're interested in this topic and you want to stay on top of it and other legal stuff, we do trials, we do retro trials, we do popular culture, legal issues. Just hit that subscribe button and hit the like and take the poll. All right, let's look at this. This was a press release that's since been updated. Wow. Update. Where are we at here? Sorry, I need to bring up the updated version. Go home, Synergy, read more. Media, Synergy in the media. It's not where you want to be. Again, I apologize for this. I was doing stuff and I got away from myself. And where are we at here? Headquartered in Singapore. I'm sorry. This is what I get for accidentally doing stuff. All right. I did not close down the link, so I can scrape back up here and get the This is me being unprofessional. Here we go. SynergyMarineGroup.com. There we are. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm back now. Great. 856 people here would just watch me struggle furiously, and the dogs have left. So we'll switch that back over to Strawberry. If Yoda ever graces us with his presence again, we'll turn that on. All right, let's bring up this deal. This is the statement with two updates from Synergy themselves. And it's so small you can't see it. Let's see. Allow those. Owners and managers of the Singapore flagged container ship Dali, IMO. That's the IMO number is a number that is assigned to a ship that essentially never ever changes despite the ship being sold and transferred to other people. This is a permanent number that the ship gets forever and ever and ever. So Jeff is new to streaming. No, it just sort of seems like I literally have probably 20 windows open and I just kind of closed the one I was supposed to be looking at. Yeah, it's kind of, it's like a ship VIN number. That's exactly what it is. Right. So it has the IMO 9697428 report that the vessel collided with one of the pillars of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, Baltimore, whilst under pilotage with 2 pilots on board. And I was wondering why there were 2 pilots on board. That's not entirely common. That's pretty unusual, but I found out the answer. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but one of them was a trainee pilot. So now it makes perfect sense why there were 2 pilots on board. At approximately 1:30 local time on 26 March, all crew members, including the 2 pilots that have been accounted for, and there are no reports of any injuries. There has also been no pollution. There was one guy that kind of bumped his head a little bit. They took him to the hospital, treated him, sent him back to the ship, so no big deal. Whilst the exact cause of the incident is yet to be determined, the Dolly must now mobilize its qualified individual incident response service. The U.S. Coast Guard and local officials have been notified, and the owners and managers are fully cooperating with federal and state government agencies under an approved plan. The vessel's named the Dolly. It carries 10,000 containers. It had 4,679 containers at the time. Its dead weight is 116,851 tons. 22 Indian crewmen in all. The Indian captain, dun dun dun, he's not Ukrainian, spoiler alert. And the owner is Grace Ocean Private Limited, and it was outbound from Baltimore to Colombo, Sri Lanka. There's been an update. There's been 2 updates, actually. The first update is right here on March 27th. As owners, Grace Ocean Pte. Ltd. And ship manager of the Singapore flag Dolly, here and below, an update on the Baltimore Elision. That's the word of the day, people, elision. This was technically not a collision. It was an elision. It was an elision. What an elision is a moving object hitting a stationary object. 2 moving objects hitting each other is a collision. So 2 ships hit each other, they collided. If a ship hits a bridge or a port, it was an elision. It collided with the group. But anyone that uses the term elision is just trying to show off. Everybody calls it a collision. We just all, exactly, it's an SAT word. Everyone just says collision. If there's ever an incident I'm working on and someone talks about the elision, I just kind of roll my eyes and go, ugh, and I continue to call it a collision. We confirm that the safety of all crew members and 2 pilots on board, with 1 minor injury reported. The injured crew member has been treated and discharged from hospital. Unfortunately, the incident also impacted those who were on the Francis Scott Key. Yeah, it affected those on the Francis Scott Key Bridge a little bit at the time. And based on reports from the Baltimore Fire Chief and ABC News and other media outlets, there have so far been 2 rescued from the water, including 1 person with serious injuries. As per the United States Coast Guard, the search and rescue operation has been called off for the night. 6 people are presumed dead. We extend our deepest sympathies to everyone affected and their families. Our thoughts are with them as we coordinate closely with the authorities to manage the incident's aftermath, including environmental impact assessments. Our emergency response team has been dispatched and is presently at Baltimore to support the ongoing efforts to ensure crew safety, maintain vessel integrity, and facilitate the swift and safe reopening of the waterway. CNN has reported that U.S. President Biden and Maryland Governor Wes Moore is expressing thanks to the vessel's crew for issuing a Mayday warning prior to the impact, which they said probably saved lives. Authorities from the U.S. Coast Guard and National Transportation Safety Board boarded the vessel to carry out investigations. Further updates will be provided as more information becomes available. Well, we have a new update. This update was on 28th March. This was day 3 of the incident. We extend our deepest sympathies to the family of the 2 people lost following the incident in the Baltimore Harbor on March 26. We remain hopeful that continued efforts will lead to the recovery of the workers who remain missing. One of the vessel's crew members who was injured returned to the vessel on Wednesday after being treated. The ship managers have activated their mental health team to provide trauma counseling for crew members feeling distressed, and that service will continue. The National Transportation Safety Board boarded the vessel on Wednesday and collected documents, voyage data recorder extracts. We're going to be talking about the voyage data recorder. You know we're going to be, because that has become the new focus of absolute misinformation and misunderstanding. We'll definitely be talking more about the voyage data recorder here in just a little bit. and other evidence as part of their investigation. The NTSB also began interviewing crew members. We will continue to cooperate with investigators throughout the process. Our emergency response team is on the ground in Baltimore and is coordinating with officials on all stages of the recovery and remediation efforts. This includes participation in unified command that has been established to provide information as it becomes available. Now, this website here, this is if you want to know what's going on as it's going on, the keybridgeresponse2024.com. That's where you want to go. That's the official site for all information regarding the bridge response. We'll take a very quick look at it here in just a quick second. We deeply regret this incident and the problem it has caused for the people of Baltimore and the region's economy that relies on this vitally important port. Now, they've talked a little bit about the organization, some of the organizations that are going to be involved in the investigation. There's going to be a massive amount of people involved in this investigation. You're going to have the National Transportation Safety Board. The Coast Guard is going to be conducting their own interview. You're going to have the Army Corps of Engineers who are going to be looking at the structural integrity of the bridge. You're going to be having the insurance companies. You're going to be having the protection and indemnity clubs that we're going to talk about in a little bit. You're going to have the owners. They're going to have a bunch of surveyors on the site who are going to be looking at the accident and the causes. You're going to be having the Singapore Maritime organization there. Their port authority. They've dispatched a party there. The owners have dispatched their own in-house response team. There's going to be multiple organizations investigating this accident. So it's not just going to be one person signing off on it. All right, let's see. Okay, we've got a bunch of stuff came in while I was reading that article. I don't want to go too long without acknowledging the generous support that you guys are all giving. All 940 of you here. This is about double the most we've ever had for a Maritime Monday. We try to do this every Monday, by the way, for those of you that are new to the channel and just joining. Maritime Monday, we talk about shipwrecks, we talk about old shipwrecks, cannibalism, strandings, the Shackleton expedition, that was the South Pole expeditions. We've talked about a couple of those. We've talked about finding the Northwest Passage. We talk a lot about old shipping as well as new shipping and some scary stuff and some fun stuff. Hopefully we'll be getting to some fun stuff soon. But that's what we do. Try to do it every Monday. Maritime Mondays are fun. And they started out as an accident because one day I literally had nothing to talk about. And I thought, oh, I need to talk about something that I can at least comment on the fly. So I said, let's just pull up some ship collision videos from YouTube. And people liked it so much that's how Maritime Monday was born. It was born by accident. Marv White with the $2. Thank you so much. Started 19 minutes ago. Did I miss anything? 19 minutes ago? Yeah, maybe the first article. But there's a lot more to get through, so go back and watch it later. Stay tuned. Stick here with us. Legendary Racing has been a member for 12 months. 1 year, Mark. Thank you so much, brother. Hurry up and get to the cannibalism. Did you have to separate that because they wouldn't let you type the word cannibalism? But yeah, sorry, no cannibalism yet. But the Indian crew is trapped on the ship for several more weeks, probably. When I say trapped, I mean have to stay there for reasons which we'll talk about later. But they're probably pretty well provisioned, and it's not too difficult to get provisions to the ship, so probably not much cannibalism. Sorry to disappoint you, Legendary Racing. Cannibalism, by the way, is a big fan favorite here for Maritime Mondays. Thank you, brother. NJ Kathy with just a super sticker. Thank you so much for the super sticker. What was the super sticker? It was, wow, it's a critical hit. Oh, that's kind of funny. It's a little game controller. Critical hit. Yeah, this was a critical hit. Thank you so much. D. Watt gifted 10 Legal Vices memberships. If you got one of those 10 Legal Vices memberships from D. Watt, please reach out and give him a super special thanks here in chat. Thank you so much for your support, brother. Dina with a $5. Thanks for your work. Hey, this is me. This is what I do. It's weird. It's a dark, antiquated section of it's like the nichiest of all niche things to talk about on the internet, maritime law, but it's kind of fun when I get going. So thank you very much. And actually today I was dealing with a case that we've been working on for a few years involving a ship that sort of smashed into a pier and took out a bunch of gantry cranes. Yeah, that was an accident. Cheesehead lost on Bourbon Street. Thank you so much for being a member for 19 months. One of the truly OG of OG people, seeing as how we've only been doing this for 23 months. We're exactly 23 months today. The very first Law Racks Legal Vices video was posted on May 2nd, 2 years ago. So and we started doing memberships about 19 months ago. Thanks for being the voice of reason and having to listen to family debates all weekend. Yeah. I've been Don Quixote and tilting against windmills, trying to get people to abandon their ideas that this is somehow anything other than an accident. And I'm tired. I'm tired of doing the work. MG Law says, Legal Vices, there was a barge accident that hit a bridge south of Sarasota, Oklahoma a couple days ago. That's a good thing to mention. People are like, oh my God, there's another one. Right now, we are all hyper aware. If you look closely, I will bet you will find there's at least a dozen other ships hitting things that have happened between last Tuesday and today. You're just hyper aware. Everybody is just hyper aware. Ships hit things all the time. If they didn't, I wouldn't have much of a job. Ships are really good at hitting things, but it's because they're usually in very relatively narrow spaces, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if something goes wrong, usually it happens out at sea where it's not a big deal, but sometimes it can happen in front of a bridge, which is not a good thing. But barges hitting things, ships hitting bridges, ships hitting big bridges, ships hitting barges, people hitting docks and things. It happens all the time. Literally all the time. We're just hyper aware because it was involving a catastrophic bridge failure. Normally it just goes thunk. And we've watched a few times the case that I worked on here where the drunk Russian captain turned left instead of turning right out of a port and rammed into the bridge that's right outside my window. We've shown that video a few times. If you want to see that, look for it's on YouTube. It's usually under something like Russian ship hits bridge in Korea. Yeah, it happened right outside my window. The bridge it hit is literally right there. So it happens all the time. Squizgar2322, thank you so much for the $10. Appreciated it, Jeff. We don't know every possible detail of the elision, and clearly that means it's a cover-up. The government directed the ship using wind generated with the HARP array, and that's what I was saying. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, that is exactly not what happened. CERN wasn't involved. It's not a multi-dimensional fortress that it's an accident. Aspen Fallen, thank you so much. Sir Ernest Shackleton lives rent-free in my head, thanks to you. Still my favorite $30 whiskey. It's no joke. No, the Shackleton whiskey is an amazing whiskey for its price point. Fantastic, and it comes with a hell of a story. And Jinver, who's been a member for 18 months. Woohoo! It's been a great ride. Thank you, Jeff. Well, Jinver, hope you stick around for another 18. Hope I stick around for another 18 months. All right. Thank you so much for everything. Tracy Fagan coming in at just under the wire before we jump back into the stories. Very important question. How did Strawberry get in that chair? Well, that's a little bit off topic, but we can address it quickly. What some of you have actually seen it. What she does is she starts on the ground and then she puts her head between the seat cushion and the armrest. And then she puts her left hind foot up on the wooden seat supporter, and then she just crawls up between the cushion and the armrest. That's how she gets up there. Shelby Fogg, member for 8 months. Oh, what a cute little puppy dog. What whiskey would you recommend as a birthday present? Ooh, if you want bourbon, Basil Hayden. If you want Scotch, Glenmorangie 10-year. These are base models that are great introductions. If they're whiskey aficionados, ask them what they want. If they're whiskey noobs, those are the two I would go with. Okay, let's get back. I mentioned this official response website. This is it. Key Bridge Response 2024. It's the official site for information regarding the Francis Scott Key Bridge response. It's got all of the updates, the multimedia releases. You can subscribe to it. All of the press releases are here. Lots of press releases. So yeah, follow this. This is where you want if you just want to keep up to date on the official responses to what's going on. All right. Next, we get a little bit more information regarding the chartering of the vessel by Maersk. In this article here, titled "Ship that Collided with Baltimore Bridge was chartered by Maersk." Maersk is a huge Danish shipping company. Copenhagen, March 26th, the Dolly container vessel that collided on Tuesday with a bridge in Baltimore was chartered by shipping company Maersk. The Danish group said in a statement, the ship carried Maersk customers' cargoes, but none of the company's crew or personnel were on board, it added. So again, Maersk is not on the hook for any negligence or any responsibility for the collision. We are horrified by what has happened in Baltimore, and our thoughts are with all those affected, Maersk said. Maersk's shares fell price initially fell on the day after, down 3.2% on the morning following the accident, the morning of the accident, I guess. The Dolly was set to depart Baltimore early on Tuesday and arrive at Colombo on April 22nd, according to a schedule on the Maersk website. The vessel is owned by Singapore Grace Ocean Pte, according to the LSEG data, and managed by Synergy Marine Group. We are closely following the investigations conducted by authorities and Synergy, and we will do our utmost to keep our customers informed. So that's some basic news there from Maersk. Their response is, gee, we're sorry this happened, not our crew. Now, one of the big things that we're looking at is this report, and I don't know, some of you may have seen me on where were we talking about this on Joe? Was it on with Joe on Good Logic? Maybe it was on. I've been on a few programs, and they're all kind of blurred together in my head. I believe it was Joe where he mentioned that the captain of the ship was Ukrainian, and that's been a thing that's been out there in the news. It had the captain of the ship was Ukrainian, so therefore it must be, it was a terrorist attack. They don't like the aid is coming in too slow, or for some reason the idea that a Ukrainian captain means that there was something nefarious going on is ludicrous to begin with, because there is a huge number of ships out there, a huge number of ships with Russian and or Ukrainian crew and captains. It's not uncommon, especially as you get towards the oriental side of the planet. Leave the Occidental West aside. If you get all the shipping, a lot of the shipping that's coming into Japan, obviously to Russia, Korea, China, Southeast Asia, Russian crew, Ukrainian crew. It's not. It's called laid back law now. He changed it. I keep forgetting. But that's probably where it was. Well, don't worry, Simple Pleasures. We're talking about the anchor very soon. It's coming up here in a few minutes. Hang tight for about the anchor. We'll be talking about that. The Ukrainian captain crashed the ship to avoid being drafted. That was also another one of the theories. Now, let's put this aside right now. All 979 of you, I hope most of you are rational thinking people. A few of you may still be on the conspiracy wagon, but let me dissuade you of this. Okay, when the dogs come back, we'll reinstitute Doggo Cam. The captain of the ship at the time of the accident was not Ukrainian. Captain of container ship that caused the Baltimore Bridge collapse is Indian, not Ukrainian. Well, how do we explain that? We saw the picture on the internet of the guy that said the Ukrainian was the master of the ship. Well, yeah, the AP's assessment and as well as the assessment of everyone that managed to look into it for about 6 seconds. It's false. A Ukrainian man who was listed on a maritime jobs database as captaining the Dolly for about 5 months in 2016. This poor sucker, he was on the ship for 5 months in 2016. Now the internet is blaming him for this accident when he hasn't been on this ship for 8 years. I mean, sucks to be him. Can you this is one of these mistaken identity cases where the poor bastard is just minding his own business. He goes, "Oh my God, that ship hit the bridge? Wow, I was on that ship, about 10 years ago." And then he wakes up the next morning and goes, "Oh my God, people think I did this." I feel sorry for that. That's happened in a couple of instances, a couple of cases that I've worked on too, where it's a mistaken identity. It sucks to be that person. I've seen what it can do. It sucks. So yeah, this poor guy who was on the ship for 5 months in 2016 is being erroneously blamed for the incident online. The Dolly's captain and crew are Indian. And see, that's what I thought, because I'd read that on Synergy's page. And then I went on, I believe it was Laid Back Law on Friday, where people were mentioning that. I'm like, that's the first I've heard. I heard they were all Indian. I don't know what this Ukrainian thing is. And I looked into it, and clearly it was incorrect information because internet. There were 2 pilots, local specialists, who help guide the vessels safely in and out of ports. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to help them happen, but sometimes accidents happen. Navigating the Dolly at the time of the collision, both are U.S. citizens, according to Synergy. The facts. Following the crash that caused the bridge to collapse Tuesday, social media users shared a screenshot of a website they said identified the Dolly's captain. The screenshot, taken on the BalticShipping.com database, shows 2 seafarers listed as having worked on Dolly, including a 52-year-old Ukrainian man who says it applied for the role of master or captain. The captain of the ship that hit the bridge in Baltimore is Ukrainian, reads one ex-post sharing the screenshot. Is he upset with the aid delay or just unlucky? But Synergy told the AP that Dolly's captain and crew at the time of the collision were both Indian. Dolly was being so everybody, there was one Indian captain or master and 21 other crew members. They were all Indian. But yeah, all right. Anyway, Dolly was being piloted out of Baltimore when it struck Key Bridge. The company wrote in a statement on Tuesday, Synergy told the AP that both pilots were U.S. citizens, as they are required to be by law. Foreign flagged ships, foreign-owned vessels entering and exiting U.S. ports are required to have U.S. pilots guide them in and out of ports. It's the law. So that particular rumor, that particular conspiracy theory has been put to rest. The captain of the ship at the time of the collision absolutely was not Ukrainian. Leave the poor Ukrainian dude alone. He just happened to be on the ship for 5 months, 8 years ago. I'm happy to have that one off my shoulders. I've been waiting to talk about that all weekend. Shannon Smith with the $5. Thank you so much. Probably a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. But is there a minimum distance ships stay from pillars? Why do ships not aim for the exact center of the widest part? Ideally, that's what they should do. And coming up in a little bit, we're going to be showing a video that shows you what the course was and when and why it started to go off course. But yeah, you want to, that's basically what you want to do. You want to stay as far away from things like that as possible. So that's absolutely not a dumb question. The answer is you should. And that's what we're going to look at here in just a little bit. Let's see if it's where I think it is. Yes, it's the story after, well, it's actually 1, 2, 3 stories away. It'll be the 4th story from now that we look at that video that shows the track of the ship. Thank you so much for that, Shannon. That is a very good question. And Shelby Fogg, member for 8 months. What whiskey would you recommend as a birthday present? I already did that one, but as I said, if they're noobs, bourbon, Basil Hayden, great entry bourbon. If they're new to whiskey or Scotch, then I would say the Glenmorangie 10 years a great place to begin. If they're more than basic, just ask them what they want for their birthday. That's the best way to do it. I repeated myself because that's such a great question, and it involves whiskey. That's one of my legal vices. That's part of the reason why my channel is called Legal Vices. We talk about legal issues, but we also talk about vices, cigars, pipes, whiskey, watches, things like that. Island with the $5. Now we know historical shipwrecks were also caused by lasers, alien lasers, before lasers were invented. Well, it wasn't before they were invented by aliens, obviously. No shipwrecks. Those are the rules. Hashtag facts. Yeah, see, you say before the lasers were invented, but the aliens have had them for a lot longer. And Jill Max Martinez has become the newest member. Thank you so much to Jill Max Martinez for becoming the newest member, presumably, of the Clean and Sober crew. Wow, my let's get. Why is that behaving so poorly? It's behaving poorly. Imagine YouTube controls behaving poorly. Where are we at here? Jinver, we got down there trying to make sure here. Shelby Fogg. There we go. All right, here we go. Yes, the Clean and Sober crew. Welcome Jill Max Martinez to the Clean and Sober crew, our newest member. Flux has been around since the beginning as well. Flux, so what you're saying, thank you so much for the 18 months, Flux. Love you to death. You're the best. So what you're saying is Mochadik Poon XOXO, fully adjustable, blow for freedom, and as always, pants or prison. I don't remember the rest of it. Well, great. Now you've got about 1,000 people wondering what the hell that was all about, Flux, but that's Flux. All 1,051 of you watching now, that's Flux. This is just who she is. We love you, Flux. It means something. That's one of those like, institutional humor on the channel that you'll fall into if you hang around long enough. David Nelson, member for 12 months. Not everything on the internet is true. Abraham Lincoln, one of my favorite Abraham Lincoln quotes. Absolutely true. Thank you so much for supporting for a year. And Sebastian Mueller, who has also been a member for 12 months. Wow, 12 months really went fast by. It did. And we're 1 month away from the 2-year anniversary. 2 years has flown by. And Tracy Fagan, thank you so much again. Maybe it was Captain Jack Sparrow or the Ghost of Blackbeard. The Ghost of Blackbeard wouldn't know what to do on a ship like this, but it's possible. Yeah, Flux. Hey, Steve Gosney's here also as well. What's up, Steve Gosney? Florida criminal defense lawyer extraordinaire. Okay, now here's just kind of a general update that came out on March 31st. So yesterday, let me embiggen it here a little bit and bring this up. And while I'm doing that, make sure you get on over there and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, because that would make me happy and it would make you happy. And hit that notification. Every Monday we do Maritime Monday. We talk about maritime matters. Next Monday, we're going to be talking about the United States submarine, the Navy submarine USS San Francisco that had an underwater incident. And one of my best friends on planet Earth was on the submarine at the time. He will be here as a special guest. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll probably be talking more about this. If there's been any new updates between now and then. All right, and let's take a look at how is our like and subscribe poll coming. This accident was 16% of you say I've got a wrong and uninformed opinion. 36% of you said seriously, it was only an accident, and 48% of you have said a terrible accident. Yes, those are the only three options, I'm afraid. Anything else just isn't worth considering. Right, that's just my silliness at play. I think I'm funny sometimes. Most people don't, but that's life. All right, here is the next. Oh, that's the wrong. I was embiggening the wrong window. Let's embiggen the right window. There we go. 22 members stuck aboard the Dolly. I mentioned we were going to talk about why they're stuck on board the Dolly for the foreseeable future, actually. The ship that knocked down Baltimore's Key Bridge. Here's what we know. This is a very, very, very narrow article. It's narrowly written. Top line work began Sunday to remove sections of the Francis Scott Key Bridge stuck on the bow of the cargo ship that struck the bridge on Tuesday. But 22 of the ship's crew, well, that's all of the ship's crew, not 22 of the ship's crew. The ship's crew of 22 remain stuck on board the vessel, and it's unclear how long they may be detained. Detained isn't really the right word to use. It's not incorrect, but it's sort of sort of makes it sound worse than it is. It's just they're going to be kept there as long as it takes to complete the investigations. But more important, well, let's read the article, then I'll fill in the blanks. I don't want to repeat too much. A total of 22 crew members remain on board the Dolly, which sits motionless in Baltimore Harbor as a large section of the Key Bridge weighs down its hull. Although the ship is operated by a Singaporean company, the vessel's crew is made up of 20 Indian nationals and at least one Sri. And this is not uncommon. This is not uncommon. There'll be all these weird, tiny little inconsistencies, which everyone says, oh, that points to conspiracies, and everybody's telling a different story. It takes a few days to get all of the details sorted out because people aren't focused on getting out these details to the public. They're focused on bigger, more important issues. So it's either 22 Indian nationals or 20 internationals and at least one Sri Lankan national. And the U.S. Coast Guard confirmed this on Monday. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs also confirmed it. One of the sailors was briefly hospitalized after the crash, but has since been discharged and returned to the ship. Sitting in the Patapsco River, Synergy Marine confirmed in an update on Wednesday, which we read a little bit earlier, the crew members are maintaining the Dolly's engineering spaces and stand by ready to respond to any emergencies, the U.S. Coast Guard told USA Today. The crew remains on the ship. Okay, so why is the Dolly crew confined to the ship? The crew remains on the ship in order to cooperate with the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, ongoing investigation into the cause of the accident. In other words, they must stay there because they are being questioned about the accident. We have face of making the crew talk. They're being questioned by the NTSB. That's part of the answer. No crew members have been arrested, but several have been interviewed by investigators who boarded the ship last week. It remains unclear how long the crew of the Dolly will remain stuck on the ship, though NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy said the crew had electricity and food in their quarters, noting the cook was cooking when I got on board. It smelled very good. The entire ship is about 940 feet long. That's 300 meters ish. And 158 feet wide. That's about 52 meters wide. But it is unclear what areas have been deemed safe for the crew. They're not sitting in the dark right now, but the ship cannot move. Homendy told reporters Wednesday multiple ministers who provide services to sailors at the Port of Baltimore, that would be the Seafarers Mission and organizations like that. They do a lot of good volunteer work. They told USA Today they were in contact with the Dolly's crew, who requested Wi-Fi hotspots and SIM cards. Andrew Middleton, who runs the Archdiocese of Baltimore's Apostleship of the Sea, told New York Times the crew members had to TV and reading materials to pass the time. If you've been on one of these ships, you'll know, but most people know these ships, especially this one, it was built in 2015. Actually, at Hyundai Heavy Industries, about 45 minutes up the road from me. It's where the Hyundai shipyard is. These things have luxurious accommodation. I mean, it's not, 5-star Ritz hotel levels, but they're very well cared for. I've seen ships that have swimming pools. I mean, like merchant ships that have swimming pools and the full weight rooms and whatnot. They're quite nice. The crew are very well taken care of. So yeah, they're not just like huddled in the dark going, oh, we're hungry. Please, sir, may I have some more? None of that's going on. They have TVs, movies, and the Key Bridge catastrophe triggered a massive response, according to the Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, the NTSB. Coast Guard Vice Admiral Pete Gauthier said on Wednesday, while the NTSB begins an investigation into the cause of accident, the first order of business for the military will be removing the Dolly from the harbor. People have been asking why the Army Corps of Engineers and not the Navy, Seabees, or somebody like that are handling the removal of the bridge, because that's literally what their job is. The Army Corps of Engineers is literally tasked with maintaining and building and removing some of these bridges. So yeah, that's their job. The Seabees are wartime emergency construction units essentially. They're not they have a completely different mission than the Army Corps of Engineers. So the first order of business for the military will be removing the Dolly from the harbor, where the part of its bow rests on the seafloor. Now, we're in a couple of articles from now, we're going to be looking at something that is Putin did not poison the Ukrainian captain because there was no Ukrainian captain on board. There's a problem with the ship resting on the seabed, on the seafloor, right now. The main challenge is removing those large trusses and steel members off the bow of the ship. Ooh, remove the large member from the ship. Gautier said in the White House press briefing, the vessel bow is sitting on the bottom because of the weight of the bridge debris. So essentially it's forcing, they have a giant bridge laying across the bow of the ship, and it's pressing the ship down into the mud, which is problematic for one reason we're going to look at a little bit later. They're cooperating with what we need in terms of the investigation. And Hamidi later confirmed NTSB investigators already conducted interviews with the ship's captain and first mate. Tangent. There's hazardous material stored in some of the Dolly shipping containers. Some containers fell into the Patapsco River. None of those contained any hazardous materials. Some containers were carrying mineral oils, but these remain secured on the ship. The majority of those containers are closer to the pilot house, that's towards the rear of the vessel, and are completely unaffected by the damage to the ship, the Vice Admiral said. It is unclear how close these materials are to the remaining crew members on board. The Key Bridge Unified Command, that's the website we were looking at there recently, just a few minutes ago, later noted that 14 containers of hazardous materials were impacted by the crash, which contained soap products, perfume products, or not otherwise specified resin. No hazardous materials have been detected in the atmosphere, but crews will continue to monitor the air quality. Now, again, they're basically being held on the ship while the NTSB conducts their investigation. This could lead to criminal charges, but I mean, who knows? Right now it seems unlikely. But also the main reason, well, other than the investigation, the other reason why they're still on ship is this is still a functioning vessel. It's been involved in an accident, but it is still classified as a functioning, working vessel, and you need the crew on a functioning, active vessel. So yeah, they have to keep the crew there because that's where the crew belongs, on the ship. Kevin Sheely, MG Law, don't they have anchors on ships? Yes, they have anchors, and this ship has some massive anchors. One of them was deployed. We're going to talk about the anchors and what it takes to actually use an anchor effectively, and what happens when you deploy an anchor. We're going to address all of those before too long. So hang tight. We'll get to those stories in just a little bit. But yes, ships have anchors. They're absolutely essential to have anchors. So anyway, it is a functioning, working vessel. So that's why the crew needs to be there. And also because they're undergoing investigations and questioning by the authorities. Now, how long is this going to go on? Well, as I said, they've now started to cut pieces of the bridge. They're trying to remove the bridge from the bow of the vessel. It's going to be a slow process. Baltimore coal exports are likely to be blocked for weeks. There's another view of the ship. It looks pretty much exactly like that right now. Let's embiggen this a little bit more so you all can see it a little better. The collapse of a major Baltimore bridge Tuesday is likely to shut down the port's coal exports for as many as 6 weeks and block the transport of up to 2.5 million tons of coal, said Ernie Thrasher, chief executive of X-Coal Energy and Resources, LLC. The U.S. exported about 74 million tons of coal last year, with Baltimore being the second largest terminal for the commodity. Plugging up a major coal hub threatens to disrupt global energy supply chains that have finally begun to work out kinks left over from pandemic slowdowns. You'll see some diversions to other ports, but other ports are pretty busy, said Thrasher at X-Coal. And that's what we talked about last week. They need to get this stuff out of there, but it's going to be weeks before a ship goes in or out of this place. So they're going to have to bring stuff out to alternate ports. At some point, one of their priorities is to get the containers off of the dolly and put them somewhere so that it can be worked out how to get them to their destination through other ports, through other transportation means, through other shipping agencies. They'll have to get out somewhere. So it'll still happen, but a lot of this will be overland to other ports that are nearby that will take up the slack that is arising from the port being blocked. So it's going to cost a little bit more money. It's going to take a little bit more time, but it's not fatal to supply chains. It's just going to slow things down a little bit. Baltimore ships less than 2% of global seaborne coal, so the bridge collapse will have little effect on global prices, Thrasher said. He added that the coal that moves out of Baltimore includes a lot of India-bound thermal coal, which is used for electricity generation. It'll cause some disruptions or chaos from a supply chain standpoint, but the big question is the impact on India more than any global impact. A shutdown of Baltimore coal exports would affect a significant portion of the Indian coal supply. The country consumed about 91 million tons of coal last year, according to the Indian government, and Baltimore shipped about 12 million tons to India. So, 13%. India gets roughly 13% of its coal from this port. See if there's anything else. The supply disruption will affect Asian coal markets more than European markets because much of the coal exported from the port has high sulfur content that isn't suitable for European power. The shares drop. All right, and that's pretty much that. So we're looking at weeks and weeks and weeks for this to happen. We don't need to do that. Let's look at. Let's see. Yeah, we can sideline this particular story here for a minute. I'm looking at a couple of things here. See what order things should be done in. Darn it. Okay, time to make a judgment call. We will shelve these two articles here, bring them up if we need to. We can shut this down as well. Right. This is the video, a very, very well done video. It's about 7 minutes and 55 seconds long, done by one of the truly great maritime related sites on the internet. And he's one of the guys I'm going to reach out to, and hopefully I'll be able to get him to join a panel, say 2 weeks from now. The what is going on with shipping with Sal from What Is Going On in Shipping. What is going on with shipping? Fantastic site. So this is going to show you the dolly here is the green ship. It's going to show the route that it took on the way out and what happened. So let's look at this.
So a quick update here. Want to show you the video of the track line of MV Dolly as it leaves the berth here at the Port of Baltimore. So here's Dolly. There will be two tugs, Bridget.
And see, we talked about that last Tuesday. I said there's no way a ship can make a U-turn like this without, especially a huge 300-meter, 1,000-foot long ship. There's no way they can make a U-turn like this without the assistance of tugs to pull it around. And that's exactly what happened.
And Eric McAllister that are going to come in and take the ship off the berth. You see its track line here as it heads out. I'm going to go ahead and let this play. I've got it sped up here a little bit so that you'll be able to
see the McAllister tug coming in. They're pulling
two
it
tugs
out.
come in and they get the vessel off. And the ship is going to head out into the track here. I'm going to pause it right here. And we're going to go ahead and reset here.
No, that's what I Burning Sensations. That's what I said. I said he's one of the ones that I'm going to reach out to and invite. I hope he gets my message. And if he does, I hope he responds positively. Also reaching out to Maritime Horrors and Brick and Mortar to see if they can join. But that's what we're going to be doing, hopefully 2 weeks from today. But anyway, this white thing here, think of this white diagonal line. Think of this as the ship's highway. This is the ship's road. This is in response to the why don't they go for the highest point? Why don't they stay in the middle? They do. And you're going to see what happened here. This is the shipping lane of the fairway. They call it a fairway.
Dolly is coming down her track just as you expect. The two tugs leave her, not unusual. We see that happen all the time. She is in the channel. Now, this channel can be used for two ships at a time, but they usually like to just do one. And so you see one ship. She is a little bit on the left side of the lane, just a little bit off center, but that is fine. She's doing about speeding up here to about 7-8 knots. Go ahead and readjust. So here is the key bridge right here. And this is where I want to kind of get this coincided with what's going on. All right, on the left.
All right. See, this is why I love Sal. he does some seriously good work. He is syncing up the video with the navigation chart, with the real-time navigation chart and the real-time video. So you can see what is happening from the bird's eye view on the chart. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I think I'm going to stick myself down here in the bottom corner. So no, that's the opposite of the bottom corner, isn't it? We need to put me down here in the bottom corner. There we go. So you can see this thing here in its full glory, as big as you can get it. You can watch the ship from the bird's eye view, because the video, everybody's like, oh, you can see it turn. This is a really weird angle where it looks like the ship turns several times, but you'll see it doesn't really when you look at the overhead bird's eye view on the navigation chart. It's just at the video is taken at an extremely weird angle.
Traffic on the right is the live feed that we have from the Port of Baltimore. Okay, I tried to sync this up the best I could. The videos are not running at exactly the same moment, but this is the moment that we see Dolly lose power. She goes dark,
and you can see here on right now she's lost her power. It's a 1:24 a.m. and she's still right up to the instant she loses power. She's perfectly in line on her track.
In the video up here, she is out without power at this time. You see the vessel is progressing right here at about 8.5 knots, and she's heading for the Key Bridge at this moment. And again, one of the things that we're not sure about here is what is causing the power outage on the vessel.
We don't know what's causing the power outage.
Is it mechanical? Is it computer? Is it fuel? We just don't know. But the ship goes completely dark. And let me be clear, the worst feeling ever on a ship is to lose power. Everything gets quiet.
Yeah, and out in the middle of the ocean, it's not really that big of a deal, assuming the weather's great and you're not facing giant waves. Because you go, all right, we just lost power. And what happens, and we're going to talk about a little bit later with some more videos to sort of show you rather than talk to you about it. But when there's a main power outage and everything goes black, there is an automatic generator restart system, which takes 20 to 30 seconds to get the emergency stuff going. And then it starts other generators, which eventually would lead to bringing back the main power to the vessel. So that's what you're seeing here. During this 20 or 30 seconds, it's dark. That's when the emergency generators are running up and turning the basic emergency systems back on.
Silence is the enemy on a ship. That means everything has gone wrong. So here we see the vessel coming out. It had just come from the Secret terminal, which you can see right behind it. Secret, she was actually up on this berth right over here where the cranes are, just underneath the center part of the bridge, and she's coming down. So she's still progressing down. She's doing about 8.5 knots at this point, and she is coming down the channel. Now, I got this playing at basically real time. We're going to go ahead and speed it up here in a minute, but I want to get to the point where she will get
8.5 knots is about 10 miles an hour.
We'll see the lights come back
about 15 kilometers an hour.
Now, at this moment, there's a big question about whether or not the ship has rudder control. This is the key thing. If the ship does not have rudder control, then the ship is careening out of control. There's nothing you can do. The ship would have an anchor ready to drop. You would have a crew up on the bow, but the question is that crew still there? Are they standing by? They should be in place until they get out past the bridge and the channel. There is a Maryland Bay pilot on board advising the ship's master. Right at this moment, hopefully, they're calling out issues on channel 16 and the other hailing
channels. Which we found out they were sending out the maydays.
Tell them to be aware. They will have portable radios, so they don't need the ship's radio. Here you see the power come back on the vessel. So now Dolly has power back on. She is starting to drift. If you look at Marie.
Okay, so as you can see here, looking at the chart, which is what he's talking about, you can see the ship is starting to angle towards the starboard, towards its right. Now, the reason it's doing that is because it is the winds are coming down from the north. The winds are blowing on the left side of the ship, which is pushing this 1,000-foot, 20-story tall ship like a big giant sail. It's pushing it. Plus, it's also the tide is still going out. It's not low tide yet. So the tide is going out of the port as well, which is to the right side of the ship. Also, the current is flowing down, pressing on the left side of the ship to the right of the ship. So because of the wind, the current, and the tide, the ship is going to be pushed to the right. That's just what happened. The wind, the current, and the tide are pushing the ship to the right. So that's why it's turning to the right.
Traffic here. She is starting to drift toward the south side of the channel at this point. So she is beginning her movement. Remember, this is a vessel that is about 100,000 tons. So a substantial size vessel.
It's 100,000 tons worth of ship, 116,000 tons dead weight, 96,000 gross registered tons. But with all of the fuel, the cargo, you're looking at least 350 to 400 million pounds. It's a huge ship.
So it will have a lot of momentum on her. And if they had lost power, then the rudder would not be answering. So wherever that rudder was, even if the rudder was dead center, it's not providing any maneuverability because you have torque from the propeller. The propeller is going to want to twist the ship. Now we're seeing smoke belching out of the ship. Here's the smoke coming out. What we tend to think is this is the ship starting to back down. They will try to get.
Now it can be the ship backing down, which means you're reversing its engines, trying to go backwards, trying to cut off speed. But this is when the notice it took about 20, 30 seconds because it cut off at 124, 30 seconds. Now it's exactly one. If you look up here on the top right, it's exactly 125 and 0 seconds. So it was about 30 seconds. So what I'm thinking is this is the emergency generator finally clicking in, and it's diesel fueled. So this is, to me, it's likely that it would be a bunch of diesel smoke coming in as it kicks in the generator, the emergency generator, and tries to bring up the other automated systems to restore. I mean, at this point, as we'll see a little bit later, they should have some rudder maneuverability, but we'll leave that for a video that's a couple of stories down the line.
Way off the ship. And that's going to be an indication we're going to see here if the ship begins to slow down. So I got it running now. It's a little bit off sync. It's just
so to answer the question, see, it should have gone straight down here at the highest part of the bridge, but it's starting to go off track because of the wind, the currents, the loss of power. They're at the mercy of wind, current, and tide.
Not quite timed in exactly. We're lagging behind on the video, but what you do see is the ship is starting to lose way. It's starting to come off. It's down to 7.6 knots. Now the ship is coming out of the channel at this.
Now, sometime we now know that sometime around this point, they dropped the the port side, the left side anchor. And we're going to talk all about the anchor dropping here in just a few minutes. But this is right about the time they dropped the port anchor.
Point, and still has a lot of way on. That could be just a little bit of loss there by maneuverability. We know she drops her port anchor. We just don't know when she drops the port anchor. And again, more black smoke coming out of the vessel. This is either an engine failure or the issue of the ship trying to back down. And then you have the strike up against the bridge. That's where you see the speed come off to about 1.5 knots there. And on the video, you will see the ship. There'll be a big splash in front of the vessel as it hits that piling. And you'll see the collapse of the pier. You're still
see, so people say, so you can see the ship turn. It makes this big right-hand turn. And then as you can see, that's not what happens because this bridge, this is about a 45-degree angle that this video is being shot at. So when it looks like it came down and then turned, like it made a huge right turn, it wasn't. That's not really what happened. It's essentially an optical illusion from the angle of the video, the angle of the port, and the angle of the ship was heading. So as you can see now, the ship has drifted to the right rather than making a coordinated turn to the right, and it's facing the camera now. So it's facing. If you look down here in the green camera on the navigational charts where it says Dolly 1.5 knots, it's hit. It's now facing the camera because it's at not quite a 45-degree angle, but what I don't know, it'd be maybe a 30-degree angle, something like that. It just happens to be facing this way now. Why don't they have some sort of barrier to catch runaway ships before they hit the bridge? One, it's happened so rarely that a big ship like this would hit. But two, you look at the size of that ship. It's as tall as this pillar is, and it weighs 150,000 tons essentially. I mean, empty-ish. I mean, this thing could be 200,000-300,000 tons completely loaded. Nothing is going to stop it at this point. There's really, I mean, you can't put up like a big net or something. Some places will have like bumpers or like kind of call them dolphins. Sometimes they'll have like bumpers around it, but a bumper is not going to save a bridge from this. This is a mammoth. This is a beast. This is just a beast of a ship. It's not the biggest, but it is a very, very big ship. Yeah, Superman could do it. That's right, Carlos. You're right. So anyway, the ship didn't make this sudden turn. These ships don't make sudden turns. It's physically, the laws of physics do not allow sudden sharp turns. These are not F1 race cars. These are like the go-karts of the seas. They don't respond quickly. And you can see it's mostly if you watch the track, it was a drift. It just kind of drifted along with the wave, the current and whatnot, but they're still trying to do things, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Still seeing black smoke emanating from the vessel at this point. The ship has basically come now to a full stop at this point on terms of its maneuverability. It's still showing a little bit of way on because of the GPS. It just takes a while for AIS and GPS to get in sync with that. And this is the moment of impact that we will see here. About one.
Well, see, and that's why I'm saying Born Center. I've described it this way before. It's like watching a real-time accident in slow motion, but it's real time. Because you inertia, the laws of physics, inertia says this ship, it's in motion and it wants to stay in motion. And the larger it is, the more it wants to stay in motion. So even if you reverse engines, it can take up to a mile for a ship to stop and start to reverse. If you drop an anchor, it can take 20 minutes in some situations for the anchor to catch and slow or stop the ship. If it turns, you're looking remember, this ship itself is 1,000 feet, 300 meters long. If it takes one ship length, that's 300 yards, and it usually takes a lot more than that. You turn the rudder one way or the other, port or starboard, to change your course. It takes several seconds, in which point you've traveled a few hundred yards or a few hundred meters, possibly 300, 400, 500, 600 meters, damn near a kilometer, before you can actually start to see some of these changes, depending on the speed and other factors. So it takes a long time to do anything. And at this point, now they've hit the bridge in the video, but anywhere from like a minute or 2 minutes before the accident, everything they're doing is essentially trying to minimize the damage, minimize their speed, reduce their speed as much as possible, and just a Hail Mary last ditch effort to try to do anything to avoid or minimize the results of a collision. And Bella Stella, thank you so much for the 20 Legal Vices memberships. If you're one of these people that just got one of the 20 gifted memberships that's scrolling along right now, make sure you give Bella Stella a super, super special thanks for all of that. And we're going to get to the other super chats and things here in about 2 minutes after we finish this amazing video from From our friend Sal
in the
at,
morning.
what is
Eastern
going on with
Standard
shipping?
Time, 4-hour difference between UTC. See a big splash there as the pylons hit, and then you have the bridge collapse. So that gives you a kind of a play-by-play there on marine traffic as it goes on. This is current marine traffic right now. You'll see vessels that are on scene here, Coast Guard cutters, tugs, and barges. And if you zoom out here,
okay, he talks about the port congestion, which we talked about last Tuesday as well. It's congested. There's 6 or 7 ships that are trapped inside the port. There's a bunch outside the port. There's a bunch further down by Annapolis. Other ships are going to have to change their routes to. They were planning to go to there. They're going to have to find other ports to go to. Cruise ships that were going to be in that area, they've got to go find another place to let all their passengers off and perhaps take passengers on. It's a project, and it's going to take some time. Let's catch up here, folks. Sorry for the delay in getting to you. American Dreamer with the $2. Remove the bridge. Will the ship still be able to sail? Hopefully. I mean, there's still massive amounts of damage to the front of the ship. I mean, it's not going to go far because it needs to get repaired. But I guess they're hoping it's seaworthy. It's still able to float on its own, because then they can just tow it over to a repair yard or someplace for the investigation to happen. But yeah, it looks like it still should be able to sail because there's just a big gouge taken out of the front, unless there's some serious damage or some sort of hole in the bottom of the hull, a hole in the hull. But I mean, I'm sure they've done underwater inspections already, but I just don't know what the status of that is. But hopefully it'll still be able to sail, can be towed or tugged somewhere else and repaired. Fun dying member for 18 months. Yoda farted and it blew out the bridge because Jeff needs super chats for doggo treats. Well, that was great. Hoping 1,100 people saw you do that. Fun dying. Thank you so much. And speaking of that, we've got Strawberry. Thank you for reminding me. We've got Strawberry back here in studio. So let's bring up the Straws. My buddy Strawberry. All right. That's a Strawberry has returned to chew on her chew toy. Thank you so much, Fun Dying. Appreciate that. Jennifer with the £5. Do an upside down anchor and pineapple have the same meaning? No. Moving right along. The Chugi Show live. This is a PSYOP and MK Ultra and to blame /S. Yeah, the crap that I have read in the past week is absolutely mind-boggling. It really it's. I've actually had to cut a few friends out of my life because they just refuse to listen to even a modicum of reason. And I just can't deal with it. I just can't. Steve Gosney with the $2 super sticker. Thank you so much, Steve. Let's see what this super sticker is. Scrolling up there to the, where is it? Steve, where's your super sticker? I can't see what it is. Oh, it's a thumbs up. It's a big red thumbs up. Thank you so much. The big red thumbs up with the big red super sticker. Thank you so much, Steve Gosney. Brian S., do they have a reason for the power outage? Not yet. They don't know why it happened yet. Just know it happened. It'll all be investigated in due time. Maybe some of the very, very, very early preliminary reports might be coming out within a few weeks or so, but they're going to be so initial and so basic. I mean, it could be a year before a full report is handed out. But right now, we don't know the reason for the outage. Oh, and by the way, we'll do a little bit of an open question and answer session here at the end when we get through this. We're going to run a little bit late tonight, it looks like, because we have 30 minutes more scheduled, but we've got a bit more than 30 minutes of stuff to talk about. Ship needs a flux capacitor and go faster, flux. Yeah, they don't think it's going to get up to 88 miles an hour, which is necessary, though. And again, Bella Stella, thank you so much. Oh, by the burning sensations, thank you so much for that. The flux needs to give us a flux capacitor. And Shannon Smith, how does this change things going forward? Well, the NTSB is going to make a bunch of recommendations, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of changes that are involved. It'll have to come after the investigations of the Coast Guard, the NTSB and things like that. And I'm sure the Army Corps of Engineers are going to have some ideas, because this was an old bridge. If I recall correctly, it was a 47-year-old bridge. I'm sure the Army Corps of Engineers is going to have a little bit to say about some possible redesigns and things to make it more safe and to make it the most safe bridge on Earth. We're just going to have to wait and see. It's far too early, I think, to speculate about what procedures, policies, or structural components are going to change at this point. Steve Gosney says it's also an ugly bridge. Okay, well, not anymore. Yeah, change number 1, don't hit the bridge. Where'd that go? Who said that? I saw that scroll up really quickly. It was Kitty. Hi, Kitty. Change number 1, don't hit the bridge. All right. That is a good change. Now, as long as we're talking about the bane of my existence, the conspiracy theorists, let's bring up an article about it, shall we? Let's do that. We got 1,066 concurrent viewers here. Again, welcome to all of you. If you're coming late, go back to the beginning. After it, go back and watch the part you missed. We're having a good time here. Hopefully we're being informative. I'm trying just to go through some of the updates in the past week with one of my dear old dogs here. This is Strawberry looking at the camera. What's up, girl? All right, let's talk conspiracy, shall we? The Baltimore Bridge collapse was tragic enough. Then came the right-wing conspiracy theorists. All right, let's move us over here to the side and embiggen it. Don't like the right-wing thing, but it tends to be. Can't argue with that. As news of the tragic collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore unfolded, I was on the road in the Midwest getting information the old-fashioned way, via the radio. None from the viperous den of talk radio. Not from the prune for you particular ideology satellite radio stations, just regular straight news radio updates from sources like the Associated Press or CNN. Well, again, this is an op-ed. This is an opinion. So he clearly has an opinion that CNN and the Associated Press are not biased news sources. Only right-wing sources are. But yeah, anyway, let's not get too far off on that. We'll just say CNN and others are also biased another way. But anyway, what I learned that day, which is kind of what makes it hard for me to agree with this, but I tend to agree with this. What I learned as the day rolled along was simple. A massive cargo ship lost power early Tuesday and issued a mayday call before hitting one of the bridge supports. That's the accident right there, people. That's it. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's it. The collision caused the bridge to collapse. The warning allowed authorities to shut down traffic on the bridge, likely saving many lives. 6 construction workers who were filling potholes were missing and presumed dead at the time. Local, state, and federal officials rightly praised the first responders and search and rescue crews. There was no spin or speculative nonsense, just vital information on a truly sad day. But online, it was nuts. The bridge collapse was an awful accident, one that will be further investigated. The loss of lives is heartbreaking. The government response, top to bottom, seemed focused and well coordinated. When I got home, I looked to see how the day's news had unfolded on social media, particularly on the site formerly known as Twitter. My immediate response is, what in the name of all that is holy is going on here? I had the exact same response. If any of you went through my Twitter feed the day this happened and the next day, I was doing my best to talk reason, to be reasonable and explain how things work to people. Nobody wanted to listen. Nobody wanted to listen to me because it wasn't salacious. It was accidents happen. Was the Baltimore Bridge an attack? Conspiracy theorists quickly took hold of the Key Bridge collapse. A deadly accident with a simple explanation had, in the time it takes to say unhinged kookery, been grotesquely transformed into a conspiratorial weapon aimed at everything from the border crisis to diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. What existed online regarding the Baltimore Bridge collapse, stuff beamed into the brains of millions, bore no resemblance to what I had learned. Me too, apparently a left-wing person, and I'm not right-wing either. I'm just I'm a realist. Right-wing social media blamed bridge collapse on everything they hate. Got to agree with that. A widely circulated Fox News clip showed Maria Bartiromo noting that officials have said there was nothing nefarious behind the bridge collapse, then in the same breath talking about the potential for wrongdoing or potential for foul play given the wide open border. Who is Nicole Shanahan? Wait, Right-wing figure on Newsmax in a clip shared widely on the site, formerly known as Twitter, opined ludicrously, "I'm no expert on what is going on in the sea, but all I would say is that if you talk to employees in America, they're telling you that filling slots with employees who aren't drug-addled is a very huge problem." Okay, exactly what that has to do with a ship crewed entirely by Indian nationals is beyond me, but okay. Did DEI cause the Baltimore bridge collapse? No, you nincompoop. I hate when I so readily agree with so much of what a left-wing radical is putting on here. A right-wing social media figure with nearly 140,000 followers claimed the company that operated the ship promotes diversity, equity, and inclusion, then later posed the thoughtful question, did DEI cause this collapse? No, but that is the dumbest question anyone's ever asked. So no, it's not the dumbest question anyone's ever asked, by the way. But it is kind of dumb when you think that everybody on the ship was Indian. Right. Let's see here. Rapidly Joe Posobiec posted a picture of the collapsed bridge with a comment, "At least your grandchildren will know you fought racism." Whatever. There was so much of this going on. It just wore me down. Elon Musk. I mean, hell, what's his face that played Hercules in the TV show Hercules? He was, "If this isn't intentional, I don't know what is." I mean, calling everything a conspiracy just it cheapens what it really is. It unnecessarily creates problems. Yes, Kevin Sorbo. Kevin Sorbo was on the big, if you think this is an accident, you need to have your head examined group of people. I get people don't like government. I'm not a huge fan of governments myself, especially big ones. But that doesn't mean they're behind everything that goes wrong. And it cheapens the fact that if everything is a conspiracy, then nothing is a conspiracy. If everything is a government operation, nothing's a government operation. The government does some nefarious shit. They run some really bad operations. And not only does calling everything like this a government operation or a terrorist deal or a racist thing or whatever the hell you want to call it, it cheapens the real stuff, as well as what happened here in this case. This was an amazing attempt at saving lives by a crew in a really bad situation. It cheapens that, but it also cheapens the other actions that the government actually does. But that's all I really want to say about the conspiracy side of things. Let's see, where do I want to go next? And that, these are a little bit older. All right, so what's going to happen? I mentioned that I don't need to pull up the article for this one. I mentioned that they're going to try to find ports that are open, other ports to handle things. And the East Coast ports, including New York, New Jersey, and Virginia, they've said that they're going to take the overflow from these terminals. They said that the question is how quickly ocean freight carriers can put diversions in place, particularly for vessels already en route to Baltimore. So yeah, they're going to be finding other ports on the East Coast to go to. That's essentially it. The other ports have said we're willing and able to take the overflow, so bring it. And that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to get the stuff from this ship somewhere. They're going to have to get the stuff that's in the port waiting to be put on ships somewhere else. And they're going to have to get the stuff that's bound for this port offloaded at other ports nearby. Hell, what do I want to talk about next? The families. Let's talk about the families. The families had a bit of a statement here as well. Families of the victims in the Baltimore bridge collapse speak out, because we got to remember there's 6 people that have died in this accident. Well, that wasn't what we wanted, was it? Go back. There we go. Apparently clicking that X doesn't no, that's the how much of the article you've read X. All right. One day after the devastating collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, 2 bodies were recovered from the. So they've recovered 2 bodies, which means there's 4 that still haven't been recovered from the Patapsco River, leaving families of those missing or presumed dead mourning in the aftermath. That is one we need to shout. Divers recovered 2 victims of this tragedy trapped within the vehicle. So they guess there was a vehicle that was found. Said Colonel Roland Butler Jr., Superintendent of Maryland State Police, at a news conference on Wednesday. Maryland's all right. The stupid video box is going to annoy the hell out of me. Okay, God, now go away. All right. Sorry, it's going to be a small article because of that stupid video box. Divers recovered 2 victims. The Maryland State Police identified the 2 victims as 35-year-old Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes, who was originally from Mexico, and 26-year-old Dorlian Roniel Castillo Cabrera from Guatemala. Divers found the men on Wednesday morning in a red pickup truck that was submerged in water about 25 feet deep. The Key Bridge collapsed during the early hours of Tuesday morning. We know that. Caused the entire structure to tumble into the water and taking people and vehicles along with it. Everyone on the bridge at the time of the collapse was part of a construction crew, filling potholes from the span. The bridge has been open to traffic throughout the night, but minutes before the ship struck the column at 1:30, officials from the crew said the crew aboard issued this is kind of an awkwardly written article, issued a mayday call that gave Maryland responders enough time to block divers from entering the span. They rescued 2 people from the river. Then they found the 2 bodies. There were only 2 of the 6 missing people. After reviewing sonar scans, officials said they firmly believe the 4 whose bodies have not yet been found are likely trapped inside vehicles, encased in rubble underwater, conditions too dangerous to dive in. Among those still missing is Miguel Luna, a father of 3 who came to the United States 19 years ago from El Salvador in search of a better life. The 40-year-old left for work at 6:30 p.m. on Monday evening. He's supposed to come in the morning back home and never come, said Gustavo Torres, an executive director of CASA, a nonprofit human rights organization that advocates for immigrant communities. Maynard Yasser Suzaso Sandoval, another missing worker, was days away from celebrating his 35th birthday when the bridge collapsed. Described as the light of his family, Sandoval leaves behind a teenage son and 5-year-old daughter. He was identified as a Honduran citizen by Honduras Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Antonio Garcia. Sandoval's eldest brother said the family is in tremendous agony. Father Akko Walker, a Baltimore priest, has been mourning with the families. They were out there working, sacrificing for their families, and unfortunately, they may have paid the ultimate sacrifice, Walker said of the victims. Mosias Diaz, a 45-year-old construction worker for Bronner Builders, told CBS News he was slated to work but had swapped shifts. He knew all the victims, and his mourning colleagues, he says, were like family. We shared food, we shared everything, he said in an interview in Spanish. So yeah, we can't forget that there are 6 people dead in this accident. And that was just a few of the impact statements came from them. Now, they did pull the black box. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the VDR data here, the voyage data recorder. This is the black box. This is the one that everyone's going, aha, see, there's 2 minutes that weren't recorded. And we'll show you why that's not actually true. We'll talk more about what the black box is, what it does, what it records, how it works, and what they found from it. Let's bring up that article. Oh, we got a couple more super chats here to get through. Thank you again so much for all of your generosity, everybody. We got 1,029 people here, 837 likes. Get down there and smash that like button while you're here. While we're doing this, take a breather, stretch your arms, exercise your fingers by smashing that like button and hitting subscribe. And if you have hit subscribe, double check to make sure you're still subscribed. Dave T. Git, thank you very much for the $5. So, Jeff, you're saying a Ukrainian captain directed the alien space lasers to cause the accident. Not me, but that's what some people are saying. Ugh, so tired of it. Alan Walsh, member for 13 months. Well, I have it on good authority. P. Diddy did it. That would actually make more sense than the vast majority of things that people are saying. It really, really would. I mean, unironically, that would make more sense than most of the other conspiracy theories. AED 25 coming from Tank Rat. Thank you, brother. How many people watched the movie Hackers? Oh, God. And now believe that major cargo ships are controllable by remote computers. Yeah, about that. Yeah, that. Or like Chloe from 24. We've hacked into the computer system, and here's the traffic cameras, and we're into the security system cameras. Click, 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 click. Yeah, it doesn't work like Chloe on 24 does. Thank you, Tank Rat. Appreciate the support, brother. And Britt Cormier, what's up, brother? With the $20 super chat. Real problem here. Real problem here is leg immediacy. Thank you, Britt. Thank you, Britt, for saying it. I'm sure if I did enough digging, I could find opinions just as wild from the other side of the aisle. However, the legacy news will never highlight it. That's possible. But the anti-government, they did it, tends to come from the right. We can't really deny that. It's not, but it is hyper-focused on by the legacy media, by mainstream media. Legal Vices says, Daily Quick Bites, have a question. Dolly is a single 3,000 kilowatt, 4,000 horsepower bow thruster and 4 generators separate from the main drive. Although the bow thruster is on 1% of the main, what about the bow thrusters? They run on electricity. The power is out. The bow thrusters are out. That's the short answer to that question. Then I think I saved a video about some bow thrusters and how they work. But we'll look at that here in a bit. Let's look at the timeline. Thank you so much, everybody, again, for your support. Thank you so much, Britt. Thank you so much, everybody else. And we'll get to a question and answer session here at the end. If y'all stick around for a bit, we should get to it in about 30 minutes, I think, and we'll do a quick short question and answer session. I need some liquid, Mike. I haven't been moistening the throat here. Thank you. Right, we're good to go. And before we jump into this, let's see what Tank Rat has. Again, Tank Rat, oh, thank you so much, brother, for the big fitty AEDs. I don't know if my time on this earth or I'm a cold-hearted person, but to me, this accident is meh. I just want the Coast Guard report to see what really happened. I'm there with you, man. Get the Coast Guard report, get the NTSB report. That's just what I want to see. I want to see what happened. And it's probably gonna be a year or more even before we get the final NTSB report, because they are incredibly detailed. I'm with you, bro. That's all I want. I just want to know why it happened and what recommendations are going to be put in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. All right, let's look at what we can tell from the black box here. This is the timeline that they pulled from the black box. Details from the moments leading up to the devastating Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse were discovered on the cargo ship's black box voyage data recorder, VDR, as the pilot tried to alert authorities to the oncoming disaster. The Dolly 984-foot Singapore flag vessel reportedly lost power while transitioning out of Baltimore Harbor and struck a bridge at about 1:27 a.m. Tuesday, the NTSB said. The bridge, a nearly 2-mile critical artery in East Coast shipping, crashed into the Patapsco River within seconds. Great. Okay, so there was the crew. We don't need to read that again. Experts estimate the bridge will take 2 years it'll take probably more than 2 years and cost at least $350 million, $60 million in federal funds for emergency work. Here we go. This is what we're looking at here. Listen carefully to this. There's some important information in this. On Tuesday, the Coast Guard recovered the audio and provided it to the National Transportation Safety Board official. Investigators Marcel Muiz, I guess that's his name, in a news conference Wednesday night, roughly 6 hours of VDR data was provided to NTSB from midnight to 6 a.m. Tuesday. And a group of experts will conduct an in-depth analysis of the audio, which was not publicly released. The timeline, and we might get it. I will definitely in the accident reports, we'll get a transcript. I don't know if I'll actually get the actual audio released, but they may in this case because it's so high profile now. The timeline provided by federal officials provides the most detailed account yet of the moments leading up to the disaster and will be the focus for investigators as they try to understand what caused the tragedy and how it could be prevented. He said several alarms were heard on the recording just before 1:25 a.m. So it's recording audio. followed about a minute later by steering commands and rudder orders. At 1:26:39 a.m., the pilot on duty made a radio call for assistance to tugboats in the area, and 45 seconds later ordered the port anchor dropped. So the port anchor was dropped right about 1:27:30. At 1:27:25 a.m., the pilot said on a radio call that Dolly had lost power and was nearing the bridge. Around that same time, the officer on duty for the Maryland Transportation Authority told officers who were at both ends of the bridge for the road repairs to close traffic, which likely saved lives. At 1:29:33, as the powerless Dolly was drifting at 8 miles per hour, the VDR recorded sounds consistent with the collision on the bridge. 6 seconds later, the pilot reported to the Coast Guard that the bridge was down. Okay, here we go. Let's look at that. Remember, the idea was, the black box, something, it didn't record 2 minutes. It did record 2 minutes. But it said it didn't record the data. The electric data is not going to be recorded if there's no electric data to be recorded. The power was off to the ship. There's a huge, and we're actually going to see it in one of these videos. There's a huge bank of backup batteries. They're like giant car batteries, 50 of them at least, to provide a little bit of emergency power to run the generators and whatnot. But the VDR system itself has its own backup battery that should last at least 2 hours. And as you see here, the powerless Dolly was drifting, but the VDR was recording audio because it has these backup batteries. And the VDR audio, what it is around the bridge of the ship, not the bridge, around the bridge of the ship, the control room, not the control room, even the wheelhouse. It has several microphones installed all around the bridge of the ship. And it records all of the audio, but it's linked directly into the VDR system. So the backup battery is recording the audio. It recorded the audio on the bridge when there was no power to it. It was recording the audio, but the electronic data wasn't being recorded because it was a blackout. And yes, Dave T. will be talking about the damages right at the end. That's the last thing we'll talk about, insurance and liability and damages and stuff. But yeah, so that's essentially what we're seeing here is audio was being recorded because the VDR system was working. If the VDR system was not working at all, there would not even be any audio being recorded. So that indicates that there was no electronic data being recorded for 2 minutes because there was no electronic data to be recorded. So we'll find out more about that later as the VDR data is analyzed more. We'll find out exactly what was recorded and what wasn't. But we know at least the audio was being recorded. The ship's VDR is a basic system compared to an aircraft black box, providing only a snapshot of the major systems on a vessel. She said the agency has long wanted more information to be recorded. So that's the black box mystery as I see it. Alrighty then. All right, let's look at another take on the timeline here. This is, again, NTSB reports here. The 6 hours of the voyage data recorder. The VDRs are required to record 30 days of history. It records 12 to 24 hours and then stores it. And so when accidents like this happen, the first thing you want to do is do an emergency locking of the VDR system, which literally shuts this thing off from any outside input whatsoever. It locks it down. It stops, it stops this from being messed with. And the only people that are authorized to touch that VDR system are the authorized technicians from the companies. They physically go on board the ship and remove it. So they handle it, and they probably gave it directly to the NTSB here. Officials with the NTSB boarded the ship to recover information from its electronics and paperwork and to do interviews with the captain and other crew members. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy said during a news conference, 23 people, including 2 pilots. Now there's 24 people were on the ship when it crashed. It's carrying 56 containers. All these numbers are, this is what I was looking for here. 12:39, the ship departs from the Seagirt Marine Terminal. The Seagirt Marine Terminal. 1:07 a.m., the ship enters Fort McHenry Channel. 1:24 a.m., ship traveling at a heading of 141 degrees at about 9.2 miles per hour. 1:24:59, sensor data stopped recording. The sensor data, not the audio. The audio recording continued. So the black box was functioning. I do not know how to say that any other way. The black box was working. Anyone that tells you the black box wasn't recording for 2 minutes, tell them they're dead messing wrong. They're just dead effing wrong. It was working. The sensor data stopped recording, presumably because there was no sensor data to record because the ship was in a blackout. But the audio kept recording. 1:26:02, the sensor data recording resumed, presumably when they got back sufficient power for there to actually be some sensor data to record. 1:26:39, the pilot made a call for tugs to assist. 1:27:04, the pilot dropped an anchor. There was the port side, the left side anchor. 1:27:25, 19 seconds later, pilot radioed that all power was lost and asked for the bridge to be closed. 1:29 a.m., ship was traveling less than 8 miles an hour. 1:29:33, VDR recorded sounds consistent with crash, and dash cameras showed bridge lights go out. Oh yeah, by the way, the ships also have like dashboard cameras. 1:29:39, pilot reports to Coast Guard that the bridge is down. Now let's look at this anchoring issue. Let's look at some anchoring videos, shall we? This I hope will explain, because people like, it's impossible. You drop the anchor on the left side, but the ship still turns because the right side of the ship hit the right side of the bridge. So therefore it must have gone against the laws of physics. Or they expect you to drop the anchor and it like stops on a dime. That's not how any of this works. Dropping an anchor is a weird thing if you don't know how it works. Bruce McFadden said you should go over the Costa Concordia disaster. I did that one. That go back in the Maritime Monday archives and you will find the Costa Concordia disaster. It's there. Been there, done that. All right. This is a video about anchoring operations and how you drop a ship's anchor and what it takes for the ship's anchor to do its job.
Anchoring is a process that helps stop the ship. A vessel at anchor remains stationary at sea.
Do we need to go back and watch the whole thing? Yeah. Okay, this is the part that's mainly what we're interested in. This part here. So this is what happens. And you drop the port side anchor, like this is done here. It doesn't just latch onto a rock. So what slows it down is the chain has to drop this anchor all the way to the bottom of the channel or wherever you're at in the ocean. It has to hit the bottom, and that it's not just the anchor itself that stops the ship. It's also the weight of the chain. It's the anchor plus the weight of the chain that slows the ship down. And eventually, as they put the brakes on, and these chains have these massive brakes on them. They break. They put the brakes on these chains. It stops the chain from going out. Then the chain goes tight and starts to dig into the seabed, like we're going to see here. So it's the
anchoring in calm waters.
We don't need the anchoring in calm waters.
At slow speed. If you anchor with head anchor, the cable starts paying out.
Okay, that's all right. Maybe we do want to see that.
Anchoring in calm waters.
There's one particular part of this I was looking
Approach
for.
At slow speed.
Okay, that's when you're calm, you want to go backwards. This is not what we want. Let me fast forward here through.
Up to 10 meters, 32.8.
That's not what we want either. against the current.
Approach stemming.
The bottom, okay, we have the, against the current, following the current. What we have here is what we're looking at with following the current. This situation is sort of what the bottom half of the screen is. The ship is heading the same direction as the current.
The tide, let go anchor.
So you let go the anchor. And remember, we saw the ship drifting to port. You drop the anchor and you're still going forward.
With sternway. Pay out as the weight comes on the.
Then if you lock the brake and the anchor digs in, it swings the ship to the right because you fixed the front left. It pivots on that point around to the right. So this is what would happen if the anchor locked in, stopped the ship's forward motion,
cable,
and swings
a
around.
touch ahead on the engines may be required to relieve stress on the cable.
This is an anchor
sailing
swing.
with the tide. It is preferable to stem the tide before letting go.
That's what this anchor swing looks like. If the anchor locks itself in position, it just doesn't stop that way. It swings all around with the current. So you've got to have a lot of room between where that anchor catches and bites into the mud and slows you down, and wherever the stern of your ship is going to be a few hundred yards down the road. Because if it pivoted right on a dime, you still have to have a 300-meter circle around you. But you also have a lot of chain played out. So this could be, half a kilometer of a turning circle that you're going to need for a pivot point. It's amazing how
with the tide beam,
big this is.
Let go about 2 to 3 shackles. Depending on water depth, check the cable and allow the vessel to swing to the tide. Complete the anchoring procedure as normal after vessel completes her swing.
So that's what I wanted to show you there. So that should give you an idea of what it looks like when you drop the port anchor of a ship moving with the current. Now we can actually sort of watch it in action with this next video. All right. Let's remove the doggos for the time being. This is some anchor work on a ship.
The limitation of depth for anchoring cannot be decided only from the total amount of anchor shackles, and is limited by the rated capacity of the windlass. Generally, a windlass is provided with a weighing capacity of up to 3 to 4 shackles of cable, or about 82 to 110 meters.
So that is what a massive anchor chain looks. This is actually kind of a smaller anchor chain too.
Where the influence of winds and tideways are strong, there is a greater danger of dragging anchor due to excessive strain on the cable, otherwise due to the reduction of holding power stemming from a meandering cable caused by the effects of winds and tideways.
So this is the interesting thing. So imagine that the ship is coming down from the top to the bottom. It drops its anchor, the anchor plays out, and as we saw in the animation, the ship swings around. But still, even once the ship has pivoted on the anchor, it doesn't stay stationary in one place. It makes this interesting pattern. I mean, this isn't a small tank. This is a small recreation. So it happens much, much slower than this. But
anchoring in wind,
the ship will do this.
Speed exceeding 10 meters per
This is what a ship at anchor looks like.
Causes ship motions that draw a figure of 8 locus.
So it'll sit here and just kind of wave back in this figure 8 pattern.
The maximum tension on the cable during this motion occurs when the ship drops back from its extreme yaw to the position where her fore and aft align. I mean,
is it that, that's a bit exaggerated and it's much faster than in real life, but you'll see that if you ever find yourself on one of these big ships out in a port or, at an anchorage somewhere in the ocean, you'll you'll go about your business, and then suddenly you'll look, and the anchor, your ship is pointing a completely different direction than it was a few minutes ago. So every ship has to keep track of its circle, its pivot circle, of the swing circles. So you know what is going to come within the radius of your anchor. I mean, of the back of your ship. So that's what happens here in this ship. The guy is he's only a few hundred yards. He's a couple of minutes at most away from the bridge. That's literally just a few ship lengths. And he's got to drop the anchor, wait for it to get to the bottom, wait for enough of the anchor chain to be played out to weigh down and to slow the ship a bit more. It's got to drag a little bit so that anchor can bite into the soil, and then that will slow it down. But as soon as it slows down, then it starts to pivot around. And you've got to hope that the back end of your ship is far enough away from the bridge, but it clearly wasn't. I don't know if that answered your questions about the effects of what the effects of dropping the anchor were and why it doesn't just stop the ship instantly. Even if it could somehow stop the ship instantly, it's still got that swing around that you just can't avoid. So what happens when there is a blackout? What goes on the ship? Let's look at a person who's smart talk about these things. This is Steam Man, who actually works on a ship about the same size as the Dolly. He's going to tell us what happens when a ship goes into blackout.
Hey guys, I'm going to show you our large container ship size emergency diesel. It's a pretty big engine. This is bigger than the last video I did, which was a smaller tanker. One thing you'll notice here is I have this auto standby, and that's how it should always be. I'm going to take a look back on it. What you have here is your fuel tank, which is a little low right now because I just ran it for my
diesel
2-hour
fuel
monthly emergency load test. So I've got an independent fuel tank. This is pure diesel fuel, no heavy oil, no ship's oil. Good, clean stuff. I've got a radiator back there. It's air cooled. It's not water cooled. I don't need any cooling water pumps. So what does that do? Well, this generator is going to power this switchboard and only this switchboard. This is
so once it goes into blackout mode and this generator kicks on, it's only going to power this one panel. It doesn't bring back everything. It doesn't bring back all power to the ship. It brings back this one panel.
My emergency switchboard. Right now, my emergency switchboard is fed for my main switchboard, which is why it's quiet in here. What will happen in a blackout is my emergency switchboard bus tie will open. The generator will start in about, this one will start and come online in about 20 seconds.
Which again is consistent with what we saw in the video of the bridge collapse. The lights went out and then it took about 30 seconds for them to come back on. That would be the emergency generator kicking in, which is why I was saying the black smoke makes more sense to be the diesel burning from the emergency generator kicking in.
Rules are usually around 30, but some vary up to a minute. And actually, the original US rule when I started was that it just had to start and it didn't have to provide power. But this has to work as designed and it has to provide power. And it's only going to power this emergency switchboard. The emergency switchboard is to get me so I could restart a big generator.
So again, that's what I was talking about earlier. The emergency generator gets on the literal emergency system, some lighting, some other factors, and it gives you the power to starting the bigger generators and eventually start your main engines.
It is not going to let me run the main engine. I want to be very clear. I cannot run the main engine off of emergency switchboard power. What I can do is get a larger generator going again to run the main engine. But what I do have, and which is very important, I'm sure everybody's interested in, I have my steering is powered directly off of this switchboard. And there's fire pumps and...
So that answers a big question that a lot of people had. When when the power goes out, you lose steering completely. You can do it manually, but the chances of that happening are very, very small. I think the next video even talks about that. But when the emergency generator kicks on, then you get power to the steering, low speed steering power. We saw there. So that takes at least 30 seconds, which is exactly what we saw on the video. It went dark. They lose power. They start to drift. Then it comes back on. Then, unfortunately, when that comes back on, they have the at least minimal rudder controls, minimum steering. But then, unfortunately, they had a second power outage. But yeah, so that should answer your question, that once that emergency power kicks on, when the first batch of lights come on, that's when they can start working with the steering.
And other electronics and radars and stuff. But I have steering powered. So if this ship blacks out in 20 seconds, there is electricity available for steering. But I cannot run my main engine. So I think that's what everybody's interested in. And let me know what you think.
That's a good video. Now he's got a longer video here that's about 7 minutes long, where he gets really technical, like way beyond what I can understand. But a lot of what he says is still a mystery to me, even though I've watched this like 3 times. It might make sense to some of you, might make not much sense to some of you when I'm kind of in that crowd, but parts of what he says make sense because he's going to explain what he just talked about in greater detail. In the meantime, let's catch up here. Tank Rat, thank you again. Oh, we already did that one. Let's just see the Coast Guard report. Thank you, Tank Rat. Legendary Racing with a $5. I think I understand what you're saying. The Indian crew shut off the black box to eat their Ukrainian captain while smuggling illegal immigrants. Well, of course, that was just so they could buy space lasers from the aliens. I don't think it had anything to do with the ship itself, with the accident itself. But yeah, Free the People says this is very educational. This is how news should be presented. Almost all media, corporate and independent, both sides are biased and give their own opinions too much. Thank you, Legal Vices. Well, Free the People, thank you very much for saying that. That's all I know is what I'm acquainted with, what I'm familiar with, and what I see. And I want to emphasize again what I said at the beginning. If you look at anyone in the maritime industry, in the deals with shipping in any capacity whatsoever, not a single person that I have seen has said anything other than this is an accident. All of the bias of all the conspiracy theories, all that are coming from people outside of the very industry that knows what the hell they're talking about. And I don't profess to know a hell of a lot about the engine. Everything I know about the engineering and how ships work and anchoring and then the engines just comes from my own anecdotal personal experience investigating accidents and watching YouTube videos. But the legal stuff I know a little bit more about. But this is important. You don't need to sensationalize it. Just look at it for what it is, and don't be so. I don't want to say don't be skeptical. Everybody should be skeptical of everything, but don't cut off your nose despite your face. Don't throw away the obvious conclusions because you want some sort of bias confirmation you want this thing to prove what you think it should prove. Just look at what's there and assess it. That's all. Thank you so much, Free the People, for your nice comment there. Squid Pro Quo says it's almost like when you lose power, you lose everything that needs power to function. Oh, the logic is making my head explode. Yeah, it's not really that hard, is it, Squid Pro Quo? Thank you so much. All right, let's look at some more of this here. This will be the last video. Then we've got a few things. Then I want to talk about a little bit of the legal side of things. Yeah, don't throw away the bridge with the bathwater. All right. Share the screen again. This is also from Steam Man. Again, where he gets a little more technical for the next 7 minutes, but it is a fantastic, amazing video. The guy's been putting out some really good content because he's the chief engineer, again, of a ship that is virtually the same size as the dolly. So he knows what he's talking about. Good stuff.
Hey guys, with everything in the news, I thought I'd show you how a very large container ship steering system works. Right now, I'm chief engineer on a roughly 110,000 deadweight ton container
Almost
ship.
the same size as the dolly.
That's the similar weight of the Dahlia. We're a little longer, more powerful, not as wide, different number of containers, but this is generally a very similar setup that you would find on there. And I'm going to point things out to you, show you how they work, why losing power, why they lost steering. So what I've got here, let's see if I can show you that good. I have 2 electric motors, right? And they are completely and separate, independent electric motors that go to 2 different pumps. This is my rudder horn here. And then I've got my oil storage tanks back there. There are low level alarms on that. There's a number of alarms on the system in general. You can see there's the...
And he's going to be explaining the redundancies of the system. That's pretty much what I got out of the first part of the video, is there's redundancies built in. But sometimes they...
Giant hydraulic rams here. Let's try to get you. There's 4 rams into this giant system in this block. And this is an incredibly redundant system. The way all the controls are set up, everything is set up for failures. So what we're going to look at here is I have this is my emergency control panel, or this pump, the number 2 pump, is my emergency steering unit. What that means is electrically, it is fed from my emergency switchboard. My emergency switchboard is live all the time. It's fed from the main generators. What will happen in a blackout is the emergency diesel will start up after a certain amount of time and power the emergency switchboard.
And this is what he was talking about in the last video. Power goes out, the diesel generator kicks in, and it powers the emergency panel.
It's roughly 30 seconds. My ship is about 20 seconds till the lights come on and this motor would be able to be restarted. There's different regulations around the world. That's what most of the large ones are going to do. So again, I said there's multiple redundancies, and the way the cabling is run, it's very hard to do everything backwards. This cabling on this side, this is the port side of the ship. This cabling runs up the port side of the ship. And the reason for that is the other cabling for the other motor, which is fed off the main switchboard, runs up the starboard side of the ship. And the reason you do that is if you're ever in a collision and the cables are severed, you have an alternate supply.
So you see that, I find this fascinating. I didn't really know this until earlier today when I watched this. Flux says, so it's designed to fail. No, it's the exact opposite. It's designed not to fail. So like he's saying, is you essentially have the same generators, one on the port side, one on the starboard side, so that if the starboard side gets taken out, you still have the port side panels. And if the port side panels get taken out in an accident, you still have the starboard side to function. So yeah, that's I found that very, very interesting. You have the 2 redundant controls on opposite sides. So in case something happens to one side, the other still functions. Starboard, not starboard. It was pronounced starboard, but yeah, you don't say starboard because they would probably, kick your ass. It's starboard.
So,
STRBRD is how you spell starboard.
So here we are. Here we see the number 1 steering motor controller. It's on the opposite side of the ship. The cables run to the opposite side of the ship. The control cables from the bridge run down opposite sides of the ship, so that, again, if you lose one side, if there's a fire on one side, you have the other side. Now, like I said, most of the time, or I shouldn't say most of the time, both pumps are available normally all of the time. This is my number 1, is fed exclusively from the main switchboard. Number 2 is fed exclusively from the emergency switchboard, but the emergency switchboard is fed from the main switchboard, which is fed from the main generators. Only in the event of a blackout does that emergency generator kick on and then provide power. So
Well, this actually makes sense the fourth time watching it.
with everything in the news, I am doing a monthly 2-hour load test of my emergency generator today. We decided, let's test our stuff. So we came down here and we timed how long it takes to move the rudder on with the emergency generator actually turning it.
So see, that's interesting. When he said that the emergency generator gives you the emergency steering capability, but it does it slower than if it was run by the main engine, because you're running off this little diesel generator. So they do timing tests to see how long it takes for the steering to change when it's running off of the emergency power.
And we have a different, we have a slow speed and a high speed, and we did it on slow, which is our worst case scenario. And from midship to hard over was less than 30 seconds. It's much.
So he's saying on this slow speed, from your rudder in a neutral, a midship position, to hard port or hard starboard, which means all the way one way or all the way to the right or all the way to the left, it takes about 30 seconds for the rudder to move there. That doesn't mean you start turning at that point. That just means it takes 30 seconds for the rudder itself to change position. And then the ship will start to slowly show the effects of the altered rudder. So yeah, 30 seconds to get the ship on, to go from blackout to getting the emergency power on, and then another 30 seconds to get the steering switched all the way over to a hard starboard or a hard port. So we're looking at least a minute before the ship even begins to move. And then once you get through that minute, that's when the ship begins to show the effects of the changes in steering that you've put in. So they just didn't have that much time. They just didn't have that much time.
Much faster on high speed. It's much faster on 2 pumps. When we talk about redundancies, ships have a steering wheel, and there's a number of linkages that we'll see up here. These feed up to the rudder angle indicators on the bridge. You just turn the wheel, you want to see how much the rudder turns. There's 2 of them, that's redundancy. If those would fail, both of them fail, there's what's called a non-follow-up. And a non-follow-up, I have non-follow-up control here. They also have that on the bridge where they can just tell the rudder, go left, go right. I don't know how far it's going, but they'll see the ship swing. They know the rudder is going left and right. And again, redundancy, again, I have that on the other side back here. My worst case scenario, all of that fails. All of that fails for whatever reason. And I could somehow power this motor. I could come over here and grab these handles and move the steering gear myself. That would be an incredible.
Yes, but there's a problem with that, and is he's going to say you're just not standing right next to that when the accident happens.
Handles and move the steering gear myself. That would be an incredibly unlikely scenario, and like what happened in Baltimore, you wouldn't do that because nobody's back here. We're probably 150, 200 feet back from the house. So it's not like somebody's going to be here quickly and do that. And you have so many electrical redundancies already, and everything's going to happen automatically that you don't need it. What I want to emphasize though is what you see 2 electric motors. You have to have electricity to steer. You can't move something this big without power. And what power is? Electric's the most common, and it's dually redundant. So what happened on the ship in Baltimore, their main power supply went down. They would have lost one electric motor. What they should have had happen is the second motor become available after that emergency diesel started. And we don't have the report out. I don't know what happened there. They should have had control after about 30 seconds of the rudder. Hopefully that answers a lot of questions, and comment for more information.
So yeah, that's more from
the collapse of the France
from Steam Man. Great, very, very informative the past week. Some great videos there from him. Check him out, the Steam Man. Good stuff. So again, I hope that answered some of your questions about how the power system actually works and what it takes to get from a absolute blackout situation to being able to begin to handle the steering. You run out of space, you run out of time. All right, the last three things we want to talk about very quickly are the plan for getting things up and running from a shipping perspective, prior problems with the ship, and finally a couple of legal issues. So let's quickly clear this. Oh, first we have Squizgar2322 with the $5. Thank you so much for that super chat. Very, 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 very appreciative. Thank you so much. Jeff, I will counter that there are no accidents. There is some cause, and there was likely some failure in safety protocols somewhere. Yeah, I mean, when you say accident, when I say accident, when they use accident in these terms, it's accident as opposed to intentional. No, none of this was intentional. It was accidental. It doesn't mean without a cause or without some sort of negligence. There may have been maintenance or whatnot, which could be likely, given some of the issues we're going to talk about here in a bit. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's not intentionally caused. It's accidentally caused. So that's what I mean, and that's what others mean when you say this. It was an accident. It wasn't intentional. All right, what are we looking at here? Righto. This is from Sal's Twitter feed, which makes it so it's very, very difficult to embiggen at all. Yeah, that's not gonna be embiggened. Let's see if we can just open this link in a new tab. Nope. All right, I'll just have to read it to you. The Francis Scott Key Bridge response salvage operations plan. The situation remains dynamic, and the plan and the graphic will be continually updated as the engineering data becomes known. This is from the Army Corps of Engineers. You can see their little castle logo up here, their little castle emblem. The objectives. There's 6 objectives. 6 objectives. A, stabilize the dolly to prevent pivoting. Because they don't want it moving around. That's when more problems happen. So they want to stabilize it, get it in a fixed and non-pivoting position. B, analyze internal bridge truss structure. C, position 1,000-ton and 600-ton floating cranes. The cranes apparently have arrived on scene, these big, gigantic cranes. Then cut diagonal truss to lift from vessel and swing wreckage for removal. So they want to use these cranes to raise pieces of metal off the ship and put it on the shore or other places. 11, refloat the dolly away from the wreckage. And then finally, disassemble and remove the bridge. The priorities. The first priority is a clear federal channel. Establish wreckage consolidation point, so point where they're going to dump all the wreckage and stuff. Position cranes to remove bridge span from dolly, clear wreckage from dolly, and remove wreckage from federal channel. The second priority is refloat and remove the dolly. Assess cargo and remove containers as necessary. Stage assets for repositioning of dolly, and then refloat and move dolly from hard grounding. It's on the seabed right now because it has a giant bridge pushing it down. Clear remaining wreckage is the third priority. Systematically clear wreckage from outside of the federal channel, facilitated under direction of Maryland Department of Emergency Services. So that's the plan that they have for moving forward. All right. And then quickly, let's look at problems with the ship's past, because people have brought that up. This was involved in accidents before. Accidents happen. There's some ships out there that are involved in multiple accidents. I've had the same ship. I've had several ships involved in. Well, even today, the case I was working on today was in one of the cases I was working on today involved an injured crewman. And I was searching for the ship in my email, and I realized that we had dealt with this ship in a collision years ago. So it's the same ships have accidents. I've had the same ship be involved in up to 4 different incidents, because it just happens. Things happen on ships. And before we get into that, Josh says, blink once if Russians are making you say this. Thanks, Josh. Twice if they're Ukrainian, thrice is such a good word. Thrice if they're American. Don't blink if it's the aliens. I'm blinking only once, so I don't know what that means. Thank you so much, Josh, for that. Little Dog Chaz, what's up, homie? My Utah homeboy. Legal Vice says, would you consider a redirect to Law of Self-Defense? He is going to start looking at Wisconsin v. Zachariah Anderson. Oh, so soon, Branca? Andrew Branca is so soon going to be looking at it? Yeah. We'll have to see who's going at that, but yeah, sure, absolutely. Oh, Little Dog Chaz, I did somebody wrong because of you. I thought I was closing yours and I closed somebody else's. Who was it? It was who got shortchanged? It was Tank Rat. Tank Rat, I gotta scroll up and find your message there. Oh, good. That was very, very close. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Tank Rat, for the support. The USAF uses the term mishap due to majority of incidents are a result of human error. Accidents are acts of God. Yeah. Accidents can be that, but generally when we talk of accidents, we talk something as opposed to an intentional act. But yeah, semantics. It's all semantics. Oh, Torin 3 coming in at the buzzer before we get into this next section of articles. Torin 3, the fog of war is real. People misunderstand what they are seeing. Data gets misreported. The more people it goes through. My rule is to give any big story 72 hours to let Ukrainian captain go away. But see, thank you so much for the $10. Torin 3, check out, Torin 3 has a great channel, by the way. He does a traditional Japanese braiding. It's phenomenal. He made me this braid right here. That's one of my. I love that braid. It's got a ship's wheel, a whiskey glass, a cigar, Godzilla, and Cthulhu woven into it. You can kind of see it back there. If I get out of the way, it'll focus. Yeah, you got the. Wait, damn it! All right, there we go. It's weird looking at the camera. So that's like the whiskey glass there. There's the cigar. We got the ship's. Oh, here's a ship's wheel down here. The pattern repeats. It's Cthulhu, and there's Godzilla. Torin 3 made those, and you can watch him do the braiding on his channel. Really cool stuff. All right, thank you very much for that support. Appreciate it. Now let's look into the troubled past of the ship. For whatever that means. Why am I not seeing it? There we are. Is that it? That's not it. Propulsion. There we go. That's the one I was looking for. According to records from the public ship safety database Equisys, which I could bring up. We don't have enough time, though. The MV Dolly, the ship that collided with the Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge this morning. So again, this is an older article, obviously. Was cited by port state officials in San Antonio, Chile on June 27th for a deficiency related to propulsion and auxiliary machinery. So last year, apparently, it was cited for this. There were some problems with the propulsion and auxiliary machinery. According to the report, the deficiency was described in detail as issues with gauges, thermostats, etc., but there was no detention resulting from this single detected deficiency. 3 months later, the ship was subject to follow-up inspection by the U.S. Coast Guard in New York, but no deficiencies were recorded. So they found these deficiencies. It was allowed to sail, but they followed up, and by then, apparently, the deficiencies had been corrected. They've been repaired or fixed or whatever. A few minor deficiencies is not uncommon for a ship like the Dolly, which is true. These big ships, they'll have lots and lots of these deficiencies sometimes. Sometimes they'll have a few, but it's up to the classification societies, the people that do the I don't know, I guess they're the people that issue these sailing permissions and certificates for the ships. they'll anything they find wrong, they'll categorize it into basically sections, just immediate. This must be fixed before this ship moves, or this ship can wait until a next repair cycle happens, or it can wait, a number of years until it's dry docked and they're doing general repairs. They'll kind of do a triage sort of thing that way. A few minor deficiencies is not uncommon for a ship like the Dolly. However, the recent incidents in Baltimore has brought this previous citation back into focus, suggesting the possibility of a recurring issue with the vessel's propulsion system. And this is from the Equisys, that blue and gold. It sticks out. In Santiago, in San Antonio, Chile, it's inspected. This is the PSC, the port people. They do initial inspection. They found one deficiency. And the National Transportation Safety Board is leading an investigation into the crash, with particular attention likely to be paid to previously detected propulsion deficiency. NTSB Chairwoman Jennifer Hamady mentioned that the investigation would leverage onboard voice recorders and examine the vessel's operating history, among other aspects. They're going to go over every detail of this ship's past, present, and possibly future. As I mentioned earlier, the NTSB investigation will likely take a year to complete, and maritime experts expect a public hearing will be scheduled sooner. Details of the inspection in Chile will likely be presented at the hearing. There will also likely be questions about the effectiveness of the U.S. Coast Guard follow-up inspections, considering the serious budget and manning problems the Coast Guard currently faces. According to Clarkson's, the MV Dolly is owned by a subsidiary of the Japanese Mitsui & Co., Grace Ocean of Singapore, and operated by Synergy Marine on behalf of Maersk. The incident not only underscores the importance of rigorous maintenance and oversight of maritime vessels, but also highlights the potential consequences of operational failures. With cargo from Maersk on board, the implications of the incident extend beyond maritime safety, touching on issues of supply chain reliability and the responsibilities of chartering companies. Let's see here. The incident is a stark reminder of the critical need for stringent operational standards and the continuous monitoring of vessel integrity to safeguard against unforeseen accidents. That's one article there. All right, let's there's been more than that. There's been more incidents than that. Okay, this is one the people have been talking about mostly again. The mega container ship Dolly alighted. That word again, elision. It collided with the berth at Port of Antwerp. The mega container ship Dolly alighted with berth at Port of Antwerp during unmooring maneuvers for leaving the port. This is, as you'll know from the date, is July 14th, 2016. 8 years ago. It happened 8 years ago. The incident happened in good weather and was caused by mistake of the master and pilot on board. There's the ship in better days. The container ship, let's see if we can embiggen this here. The container ship had substantial stern momentum. It was going backwards pretty quick, which caused a collision with the stone wall of the quay. Following the incident, the vessel Dolly suffered sufficient damages in the stern and transom. The container ship remained afloat, but had some breaches near the waterline and will need repairs. The berth was also seriously damaged and closed for cargo handling operations due to safety reasons. Yeah, they shut down the berth. I mean, it's just like the place where the ship sits. The space before and the space after it are still used. They just have to shut down that little piece while they repair it. The berth is also happening. Okay, close down. There we go. The container ship Dolly was detained and docked to someplace Antwerp, where it will be repaired and fully inspected before release to return to operation. The vessel will have some delay from the time schedule. Fortunately, during the accident, there were no injured people or water pollution. The container ship Dolly was overall average length 300 meters, molded beam, blah, blah, blah. Here's a big size of it. The vessel was built in 2015 by Hyundai Heavy Industries in South Korea, approximately 45 minutes up the road from yours truly, just right up the coast is Hyundai Heavy Industries. The owner of the container ship Dolly, Greek company Ocean Bulk Maritime, but currently the vessel is chartered by Maersk. So the ship has been sold. I should go back into, so this, it has a new owner from between then and now. Video of the collision can be seen here. Should we watch the video of the collision? Let's watch the video, shall we? The content is unavailable right now. Well, that sucks. I know it's there on YouTube because I've seen it. This is kind of what it does. It just goes screech and scrapes along there, and it does some damage. If you just search for like Dolly and Antwerp accident, you'll see it. But yeah, this is This is a lot of concrete flying just because it jammed into the pier. It's not a serious accident. And then there's one article about it called Container Ship. It's a scary, scary title. Container ship that destroyed Baltimore Bridge has troubled history. The Maersk chartered MV Dolly, which lost propulsion just before the collision, not only was involved in a previous crash, but also briefly detained last year over problems with its propulsion system. And it proceeds to hype those things that we just talked about. So there's a lot of discussion out there. The lever breaking, the company responsible for the cargo ship that destroyed the Baltimore Bridge has a history of suppressing employees who voice safety concerns. There's a whole thing with that as well. The Department of Labor sent a letter to Maersk saying you can't silence whistleblowers and kind of things like that. It really didn't have much to do with this accident at all. I pulled up the letter that the Labor Department wrote to Maersk. The company suspended and then terminated a worker in retaliation for reporting unsafe conditions and contacting the U.S. Coast Guard. They just said, you can't do that. Don't do that. That's bad. So that's a little bit about the history of the vessel. And the final issue before I wrap up what I'm doing and then open it up to you for 15 minutes of questions or so. Hopefully I'll be able to answer some of them. Okay, that's actually a very interesting question. Squizgar mentioned it right now. Legal Vice, have you heard anything about the reefer containers tripping breakers while the ship was at port? Yes, I have heard that. I have heard that that was kind of an issue for a few days before that. There was a bunch of refrigerated containers that you plug in. They actually have outlets. They're like giant outlets on the decks of the ship. You plug these refrigerating units in. They were tripping breakers, apparently. That's what's reported. They were tripping some of the breakers. So who knows? We're just going to have to wait to find out what caused this power source. But I have heard that. I don't know if it's true. I haven't vetted it. I've just read it in one article. So it may be. Maybe that has something to do with it. I just don't know. Oh, well, yeah. One last thing I mentioned that they had some concerns about the ship being smashed onto the seabed, the sea floor by the bridge. There's a problem with that because Captain John Conrad, salvage efforts to remove the MV Dolly were delayed indefinitely yesterday. This is March 30th or March 29th. I believe they restarted yesterday and they're ongoing now. But they were delayed yesterday after a high-pressure subsea natural gas pipeline was discovered under the wreckage. So add that to your conspiracy that somehow they timed all of this just to take out the bridge, and that would cause it to fall on top of the ship, which would cause it to press down and possibly damage a natural gas pipeline. So basically the ship is sitting on top of an undersea natural gas pipeline. Oops, got to be careful about that. Yesterday, the Maryland Port Authority held a meeting at the Unified Incident Command Center located in the Maryland Cruise Terminal in Baltimore. The Army Corps of Engineers and the U.S. Coast Guard outlined their priorities. Firstly, to open the shipping channel. Second, to secure and remove the MV Dolly. And thirdly, to initiate salvage operations from the inside out. According to the source of the meeting, Don John Smith has been assigned to work with the U.S. Navy salvage operations to clear the bridge. They've hired mainland security, but we don't care about Buttigieg. Talking about the salvage companies. One salvage master we interviewed said sections of the bridge have cut through the deck, causing serious structural weakness. Imagine putting a steel bar in a powerful metal vise. Now lift and drop the end of that bar. The tide is your hand lifting and dropping that bar. Each time you do, the vise digs deeper into the vessel and the bar weakens. It's crucial to loosen that vise by removing the bridge segments that are pinning it down as soon as possible. So yeah, every time the tides go up and down, that moves the ship, and that sort of causes more damage to the ship. And despite the clock's importance, expert salvage teams such as Resolve will not jeopardize worker and environmental safety, and two critical factors have indefinitely paused the salvage efforts. The main reason for the delay is the ongoing search and recovery mission. That was kind of, so far, I guess, called off. Well, the recovery part hasn't been called off. The rescue has. Sources from the Joint Incident Command Center told G Captain that intense political interest driven by extensive media coverage is putting pressure on the command leadership and salvage masters to speed up the process. However, the salvage teams have emphasized they will not rush and cannot work safely. Don't rush the operations. Do it safely. Do it properly. There's an election coming in November. Too many players, but this is the important issue here. So far, the pressures have only delayed the efforts, but yesterday operations were paused indefinitely. The concern came during the due diligence process when salvage engineers discovered a high-pressure gas line near the wreckage. According to one source, both the Department of Transportation's U.S. Maritime Administration, MRAD, and U.S. Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration have been notified. Pipeline expert has confirmed concerns about a particular pipeline. They informed us off the record that the operator was notified and the pipeline has been isolated and depressurized. So there you go. Phew, crisis averted. All right. Do we want to talk about law stuff now? The big question everybody has is who's paying for this? That's a tricky question, but it boils down to the insurance companies for a bunch of reasons. First of all, you look at the bridge. The bridge is going to be phenomenally expensive. All the delays in the port that are caused by this, all the delays to the other ships, all the delays to the cargo, it's going to be a bunch of money. So someone was asking the other day, and last Tuesday, and I didn't really have time to address it. Talking about insurance, the protection and indemnity clubs, they have a bunch of insurance. Like I said, it's a group. Each club, it's a protection and indemnity club. It's not actually an insurance company, but it functions almost identical to an insurance company. It's sort of like a cooperative where people involved add their money to this pool. So each club will have all of their members pay in annually to this pool of money that the club has. And then there's almost all of the ships in the world are insured by 12 P&I clubs. And they form this international group of clubs, and they pool their resources together. So I think, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I think the first $10 million of an accident is covered by the P&I club that the vessel belongs to. This ship happens to belong to the Britannia P&I club. So if I remember the amounts correctly, Britannia would be responsible for the first $10 million worth of claims. Then the group of clubs, their pooled resources would cover the next $90 million up to the $100 million mark. Then there's reinsurance. We talked about before, the insurers of the insurance company. Then there's also reinsurers. The reinsurance companies will also have insurers. So basically what this boils, and they all carry portions of this. So essentially what we're looking at is if a ship is involved in the one of these 12 main P&I clubs, you're looking at a fully insured vessel having about $3.1 billion worth of insurance. So yeah, there's a lot of insurance, about $3.1 billion. But what are we looking at for payouts? Because the bridge people, they're going to want some money for repairing the bridge and all these other things, all the delays and stuff caused by this. They're all going to want their money. Now, people have been, let's see, Bendover says, Jeff is not allowed to tell us about the Titanic law. That's exactly what I'm in the middle of talking about, Bendover. That's literally exactly what I'm in the middle of. So although this thing carries $3.1 billion of insurance, they have this little thing that we call limitation of liability. There's international conventions that deal with this. The 1976 limitation conventions, like the I can't remember what the damn official title is. It's just called the 1976 limitation convention. It's like the limitation on ship owners liability convention of the Hague or some shit like that. But this idea of limiting liability for ship owners has been around for a million years. I mean, like a long, long time. And we talked a little bit about it when we talked about the Eastland sinking in Chicago, in the Chicago River. And I did a deal with Maritime Horrors about the Eastland, where I talked a little bit about limiting liability. And people call it the Titanic law, but it's not really the Titanic law. It's been an official law in the state since I can't remember, like 1854, I believe, was when the Limitation Act in the United States was codified. But it's a concept that's been around for a long, long time. So in order to understand the civil lawsuits that are going to come out of this, we need to step back a little bit. We need to step back into the history books and take a look at this very, very peculiar aspect of maritime law. The right of a ship owner to limit the amount of their liability for an accident. Since the beginning of trade by ship and long before insurance came along, shipping was understood and recognized to be an incredibly dangerous undertaking. If any of you have followed my Maritime Monday cases, ships are sinking all the time. Ships were sinking all the time back in the day. And we knew it was a very, very dangerous enterprise that was full of risks. And an accident, if a ship sinks, that accident can be financially crushing to the ship owner. The damages that, I mean, clearly in this case, the damages that are going to arise from this accident are way exceeded. They're way exceeding the assets of the ship owners and their ability to pay. So if the owners of a ship are forced to be completely, fully liable for all losses and damages that arise from an accident involving their vessel, they're going to be less likely to engage in shipping. And shipping is essential for global commerce. So it's like, basically, if we have an accident that could cause us $1 bajillion worth of liability and we have to pay that full $1 bajillion, we're just not going to do it. It's too risky. So allowing a ship owner to limit liability, that provides a measure of financial protection for the ship owners. It encourages them and incentivizes the ship owners to continue to conduct commerce, sail their vessels, and engage in their shipping operations. But so ship owners, they're given this privilege of limiting their liability in certain circumstances. And it also ensures that the owners will have sufficient resources to pay a predictable amount of their liability. In many cases, the limitation of liability is determined by the law of the flag country. So let's say that this accident happened in Korea, for example. When Korea determines if someone can limit their liability and what that limitation of liability should be, they'll look at the law of the flag country. So in this case, it's a Singaporean flagged ship. So the Korean courts would go, okay, let's look at Singaporean law. What does Singaporean law say about the right to limit liability, and how is that standard set? But if it happened in Korea and it was a Korean flagged ship, Korean law will determine, It's very, very close to the limits that are set out in the 1976 convention, which we don't need to get into for one important reason, which we'll talk about later. But it's basically based a certain amount of money based on the tonnage of the ship. So like the first 30,000 tons is so much money. Then the next, I think 20,000 tons is a certain amount of money. Then the next 30 is about the next amount. The next chunk of weight is at a certain different rate. And you can just do a mathematical calculation. So it's very, very predictable. If you know how much your ship weighs, then you know what your limitation of liability amount will be. But the U.S. is different. Which we'll talk about in just a quick second here. So this right of ship owners to limit their liabilities, as I said, is not a new concept. There's this tablet. It's like 1,000 years old, like 1,100 years old or something. It's the Amalfitan tablet is what it's called. It's a collection of sea laws that were compiled right around the end of the 11th century by the Amalfi people, which is in Italy. So the Amalfitan table, this gives us the earliest recorded example of laws that allow ship owners to limit their liability. So the concept of limitation of liability has literally been around for 1,000 years. Many people are arguing now that it's antiquated and should be done away with, particularly in light of having $3.1 billion of insurance and things like that. But it's still very, very much a part of shipping. So what does all this limitation of liability stuff have to do with this accident? Well, the U.S., as I said, handles the limitation of liability a little bit differently. It doesn't go by weight. The U.S. also doesn't go by the law of the flag country. It's well-established U.S. law that U.S. law will prevail regardless of what the other ship's law, what the ship's native country law says. If it happens in America, the American law will apply, and it's essentially that the limitation of liability law in the States is that the liability of the owner of a vessel for any loss or damage or injury will not exceed the amount or value of the vessel after the accident and the amount of freight that's pending. So basically the ship owner's liability is limited to the value of the vessel and perhaps some of the cargo freight. Well, why is that a problem? As I said, it's the value of the ship, not the value of the ship when it was built, not the value of the ship when it was fully operational and running, the value of the ship after the accident. So let's say a ship sinks. If the ship sinks, like the Titanic, this is why they call it the Titanic law, because it's the value of the ship after the accident. What happened to the Titanic? It sank. What's the value of a sunken ship? 0. So the Titanic is able to limit their liability to $0 because the cargo and the vessel are useless after it's sunk. There's no value. And in the case of the Essex that rolled over in the Chicago River, it was the same deal. The families of the victims, there were so many people that died there, and they basically got nothing out of it. Because I think the value of the ship after the accident was like $40,000, something like that. $35,000, somewhere around there. So there was like nothing left. Oh yeah, okay, that's what it was. They sold it at a public auction for $46,000. So the value of this ship was $46,000 after the accident, and there was more than $5 million worth of claims. These are like $1914, whenever the accident was. $5 million claims against an available $46,000. And when you're doing salvage operations like this, when you're removing bridges and taking in moving ships, when you're doing these salvage operations, the salvage company gets reimbursed first. And anything left, that goes to the other creditors and claimants. So in this case, the ship owner should be able to limit their liability to the value of the ship after the accident. I don't know what that valuation is, and it'll take a while to determine. But it's not going to be the amount required to rebuild the bridge and to pay all of the damages that arose from this accident. It's going to be pennies on the dollar. But that's their legal right. Now there's another factor that's got to be taken into consideration, which people have been talking about the past couple of days. It's called general average. If they declare general average, that's going to be very, very interesting. What does general average do? General average is it's not dealing with any of the bridge damage, any of the personal injury, anything like that. It deals only with saving the ship, with the salvage of the ship, the costs relating to do that. The costs you're trying to save the ship. So the costs of removing the containers, the costs from removing the bridge, from refloating the ship, from moving the ship back into port. What general average does is it allows the owner to go, okay, we're declaring general average. Everybody, all of you container people, all of the people that have cargo on the ship have to pitch in to pay for the salvage of the ship. So, I'm just a cargo owner. I send my cargo on the dolly. I'm just waiting for it to sail from Baltimore to Sri Lanka. And then suddenly I get a bill for a lot of money. And I'm like, what is this all about? Well, your cargo didn't make it. And we declared general average, which means you have to pay, you as the cargo owner who just put your cargo on that ship, you have to contribute to the costs of raising the ship and sailing. And why? Because we did this. The owner says we undertook these steps to save the ship to benefit you. Like, we wouldn't have been doing this. We wouldn't have been sailing if your cargo wasn't on the ship. Because there's cargo on the ship, we're moving. And so you should contribute to the cost of salvaging the vessel. And how they do that, this is a huge project. And when, from a lawyer's perspective, when ship owners declare general average, two things go through my mind. One is, oh God, they've declared general average. And then your life is going to be a nightmare for a good 4 or 5 years while you deal with this. But then the second thought is, hey, I've got a stable source of income for the next 5 years at least. So that it's very, very time consuming, but also it pays bills. So what has to happen is they have to calculate all of the salvage costs. Like I said, you're removing the stuff from the ships, floating it, all the costs, all the underwater inspections, all the transshipment costs for saving the cargo that's on board, recovering all the cargo that's fallen into the ocean. All of these costs are calculated up. Then you have to calculate the value of all of the cargo on the ship, which they've got 4,600 containers, 4,700 containers. You have to talk to every one of the cargo owners that has cargo on that ship. Then they calculate the total value of all of the different cargo, and then they give you your percentage of the general average claims. So you say your cargo is 1% of the value of the cargo and the ship and all the other considerations that go into general average. You're responsible for paying 1% of the salvage costs. And it's the salvage and related costs, which, I mean, can be phenomenally huge amounts of money. There's insurance for this. There's general average insurance. but it's such a rare and obscure thing that most cargo owners have no idea they can be on the hook for general average claims. So it's important for freight forwarders and other companies like that that deal with this to make sure that's an option that's available to their customers. Because imagine not knowing that you could be held liable for thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for something that you're like, hey, I just put my cargo on the ship. What do you mean I have to pay for it? So yeah, this is a big deal. The financial impact from the limitation of liability, which I'm just assuming is in the process of being filed already. You want to get that done quick. From the limitation of the ship owner's liability perspective to the general average mess that I just talked about, the financial implications and payment for this is going to take years and years and years to work through. So don't expect any answers for, what's the ultimate final bill for this to come out for quite some time, literally years. Limitation of liability, it's not an automatic process. There's a whole bunch of calculations that go into it, and a whole bunch of considerations, and a whole bunch of lawsuits. But yeah, it's complicated and time consuming. So don't be holding your breath to find out any information about payments anytime soon. I think that is everything that I have to talk about. I think those are all of the major updates in the past week. Yeah, I think so. It's been 3 hours. There's a couple more super chats here, and then I promised I would give you guys a little Q&A time. So hang on here real quick. Torin 3, okay, we did the fog of war Israel. Thank you very much. Aquamarine, what's up, brother? Thanks so much for being here with the Swedish money, the Swiss money. The Swiss money catching up on 2 times speed and still 1 hour behind. Question: how often do power outages happen on ships like this? It's rare, but it's not unheard of. So you'll find out in about an hour or 30 minutes if you're at double speed. It's rare, but it's not unheard of. What's rare is for it to happen immediately in front of a bridge. Again, if this happens out in the middle of the ocean, you go, all right, what's the problem? And you can troubleshoot it. You can take your damn time. You don't have to worry about anything going wrong. The problem is when it's in front of a bridge and you've got like 3 minutes to try not to hit the bridge. Then it's a problem. So yeah, it's not unheard of. It's not common, but it's not unheard of. It's just an absolute freaky fluke of nature that just happened to happen right in front of a bridge. And Alex Kane with the 5 pounds. Got to run, unfortunately, but what's the chat among reinsurers? Are they concerned? Now, reinsurers have a bunch of money. They have tons of cash. And if they just raise everybody's insurance, which raises the price of moving goods, which raises the price of the goods. So this could actually, to some degree, affect prices of things around the world, like coal, what they were mentioning, automobiles, things like this could be affected by this accident. But yeah, the reinsurers, they have the reinsurers. So they're not particularly worried. They get massive amounts of money from insurance payments and whatnot. We'll just have to see how that plays out too as well. All right, let's let me open this up here to some questiones. Hang on real quick here. Let's close down our poll first. This is our poll. This accident was 15% of you said I have a wrong and uninformed opinion. 34% of you said seriously it was only an accident, and 51% of you said it was a terrible accident. So thank you very much. We had 1,293 votes on that poll. And while I've stopped here again, peeps, we've got currently 778 people. We've lost about 300 as people go about their day, and as I've reached the end of what I had prepared, but 778 of you are still here. We're going to open this up to questions in just a second. We've got over 1,000 likes. That's always way cool to see. We've picked up 51 new members. This has been a fantastic deal. How many subscribers have we picked up? If we picked up any subscribers, get down there and hit that subscribe button, people. You know you want to, and I know you want to, and I want you to. Let's see. We started out. Let's see, right here. I'm just curious how many, if any, subscribers we picked up. We picked up 48 subscribers. That's pretty damn cool. We are at 74,788 subscribers. I'm on the push for 75,000 subscribers. We are 200 and I guess that's what, 12. Yes, we're 212 subscribers away from 75,000. If there's 200 of you that haven't hit that subscribe button, get down there and do that. Let's get us up to 75,000 subscribers. That would be so awesome, and I would be so grateful to all of you if you would do that. All right. Ask your questions, people. Hang on. Right. Ask away, people. I'm curious. Curious what you want to know. So why did the aliens crash the ship? Hang on real quick here. Me. Wait, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to do this here. Oh, we got it up to 790 subscribers now. We're 10 away from 70,800. That would be cool. All right. I have to view my own channel here for just a quick second. Shh. All right, there we go. All right, we'll go through and answer some of these. What about the killer whales? No killer whales were involved in this accident. It's just good. What court hears these lawsuits? It'll be in the federal courts. The U.S. federal courts is my guess. That would make the most sense because there's going to be parties from all over the world involved. Why do not all owners always declare the separate liability or the limitation of liability at their times to their advantage? Well, in order to claim this limitation of liability, the basic requirement is the amount of liability has to exceed the value of your vessel and the cargo. And it's actually, these ships are worth so much money that it almost never, the claims from accidents almost never exceed the actual value of the vessel. So that's and then you have to figure in liabilities and things. It's not always a workaround. And again, declaring general average, it's a very time consuming and very expensive process that you try to avoid and you sort of do as a last ditch effort. Yes, there are requirements to be met. All right, what are we looking at here? Not a single serious question. Well, that's good. That means I've done my job and you understand everything. If there are no questions, we can shut it down now and I can get some sleep. It's 1:21 a.m. here in Korea. And Alan Walsh is asking Flux what her sub count is. Flux is very, very close to getting 2,000 subscribers. And that my serious, most wonderful, desirous wish for Flux is that she gets to 2,000 subscribers. I think she needs about 12 subscribers to get to 2,000. Is that what we need? Something like that? 29. Last I heard, she was 29 away. House of Flux. If anybody wants to subscribe to Mod Flux, she's great. She does Minecraft streams. She does painting streams. She hangs out with us. She is a good egg. She runs a great channel, small channel, needs to be bigger. House of Flux. It's one word with 2 X's. House of Flux with 2 X's. Yeah, definitely get her up to 2,000. She's such a good person. She deserves it. You go deep sea diving. So I've never been deep sea diving. I've never been. Well, I've been snorkeling like a couple of times. Never gone actual diving with an oxygen tank diving. I tried to, I just couldn't for some reason. I've only tried it once and I didn't, the rebreather thing was freaking me out. When did your interest in ships begin? That would be in 1996 when the maritime law firm offered me a job. I'm from Utah. I came from a desert. The Utah desert is not a big shipping place. But they hired me, and since then it's kind of become fascinating. So yeah, 1996 when I got hired by a maritime law firm. That's when the interest started. Ghostery, good to see you here, by the way. Oh, Flux is awesome. Hey, Project Metal Music, what's up? All right, I've bored everybody to tears and nobody has any questions. That's fantastic. Bush McFadden says been 200 plus times. Night dives are incredible. Wreck dives are wild. They would be. I'm semi-claustrophobic. I don't like to feel enclosed or pressured. Like if I dive down 10, 12 meters, just like the pressure, I don't like the feeling of the pressure. JKD Buck asked 2 questions. MG Law says you're still going for a few more minutes, just seeing if there's any questions. JKD Buck, I didn't see your questions. Re-ask. If you haven't, could you do a show specifically how you wound up making a deal with a Korean firm? Oh, that's very easy. That doesn't need a show. It takes about 15 minutes. I can do that. I'll remind me next week or the week after that. I'll spend 15 minutes and give you the rundown. I've talked about it before, but we can do it again. It was very interesting. Oh, thank you very much, Lemon Drop. I hope you'll come back for more. I like when people subscribe and they stick around. 1 foot visibility at bridge site. I would imagine it's kind of a muddy, dirty river, and then with all the gunk floating around. Yeah, that's bad. You're just feeling around in the dark then. All right, I did that here. I like the maritime streams. Oh, thank you, Janice Driver. Bend over. Good day, all you freaks. Good day, bend over. The ship was infiltrated by evildoers. So not the evildoers. Who will pay to rebuild the bridge? The insurance company. The government's pledged money. Let's go, Brandon. He gave us some money. Good old Joe said he's not going to wait for it could take a long time for the insurance companies to pay for the bridge. But so I would guess that the government will foot the bill and then go after them for reimbursement of costs spent building and again, limitation of liability. So I think a lot of the burden is going to be shifted to the U.S. taxpayers. Ultimately, the shipping company will pay for a little bit. Like I said, the insurance companies will pay for a bit of it, but I would suspect that the government will probably be picking up a good chunk of it. Legal Vices, Utah has crazy people. Yes, it does. Yeah, that's why I don't go diving too. I don't want to be the guy that gets caught in the wreck and dies. How long did it take you to learn Korean? Well, Hangul is the written Korean. You can learn to read and write Korean in 2 hours. You just won't have any idea what you're reading or writing. But speaking, I've had to learn Korean so many times. I was a missionary here first, where I spent 2 years learning religious Korean. Then I came back as an exchange student where I had to learn sort of educational Korean. And then when I came back to work for the firm, I had to learn legal Korean. So I basically had to learn Korean 3 times, completely separate, vocabularies and topics and things. But just conversational stuff. It took about a year to feel comfortable. Like I could communicate basic stuff and understand basic responses. Still learning. It's kind of one of those things. If a foreigner asks me if I'm fluent, oh yeah, hell yeah, I'm totally fluent. If a Korean asks me, I would never dare say I'm fluent, because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. When are you introducing us to your kin? No, my family still has no idea how to do YouTube. Not that I'm hiding from them, I'm just not advertising it. Jeff, while this takes years in court to settle, do the American taxpayers pay for a new bridge? Short answer, Joe Biden seems to have pledged money for it. And the bridge, I don't know I don't know who will be the owner of the bridge. It could be the government. could be a public corporation setup. I don't know, but basically probably just count on it being the taxpayers in the first instance. And then they'll get the reimbursement probably from the insurance companies up to a certain amount. Why not call in Godzilla to help with the wreckage clearance? Godzilla, well, depends if you believe Godzilla is a he or a she. Most people believe Godzilla to be a she, but she just makes it worse. She doesn't help with cleanup. She just makes more. And Duncan, Idaho, what's up with the $10? Thank you so much. Do you watch Studio Ghibli movies? Have a favorite? Totoro is my favorite movie. I love Totoro. Is like great. What about Japanese movies in general? All the Godzilla films, all of the kaiju, all the monster films. I love the Japanese monster films. Japanese horror films are good too. Yeah, so that's kind of my deal. I just saw Perfect Days and thought it was very good. 10 out of 10. You should see it. I haven't seen Perfect Days. But speaking of Studio Ghibli movies, tune in tomorrow for a Hales update. There's a new introduction. There's a new introductory song that just happens to have animation that's heavily influenced by Studio Ghibli style animation. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Check in tomorrow, Duncan. Do not miss the What the Hales update tomorrow. You'll be amused if you like Studio Ghibli stuff. Scrolling on down here. Dirty Baltimore? No way. Hey, Spather, what's up? What is the reason we have not seen or heard from the captain and crew? They're on the ship. They'll be on the ship. We talked about this a little bit earlier. They're being questioned by the National Transportation Safety Board, the Coast Guard, and others. They're essentially being detained. Plus, they have to stay on the ship because the ship is still a working operating ship. So yeah, they're busy. That's the short answer. They're busy. Flux. All right. Alan Walsh, answer my question. What? I did. I thought. I did. I answered your question. JKD Buck. Will anyone? I missed one again. Dang. Oh, here it is. One, could a structure be built that is cargo vessel proof, withstand a carbon vessel hit? This ship is so big. I'm sure it'll be more. The replacement bridge will be more sturdy. But how do you stop something that weighs 350 million pounds? Hey, Boosh, talk to you later. Thank you for joining us, Boosh McFadden, on the way out. Yeah, I don't know how you build something that can stand up against 350 million pounds. 175,000 tons. That's a lot of weight. And then you put inertia behind it. This is just one of these things you just hope doesn't happen. And it hasn't. It took 47 years for something to hit it. So All right, let's see. Scrolling on down again. 2, will anyone in court try to say the bridge wasn't structurally sound to avoid liability? That certainly maybe. I mean, we'll have to see what the Army Corps of Engineers report is, but if there's any leeway to argue that, I'm sure they would to try to reduce liability. All right. Well, that looks like it. Bush says, I hope you didn't leave already. Bush says, I'd save you, Jeff. I saved 2 people already. I got your back, homie. Yes, I generally find that if I avoid situations where I have to be saved, then I'm pretty much guaranteed not to need to be saved. All right, Duncan, Idaho, member for 13 months. In the book Cryptonomicon, there's a business in Philippines which specializes in salvage. Is maritime salvage a big thing near the Southeast Asian coast? Oh yeah, I mean, even up here in the East, Nippon Salvage out of Japan is one of the largest salvage companies in the world. Philippines is a big ship salvaging and ship cracking, ship breaking up place. The salvage companies can make tens of millions of dollars when they salvage ships like this. I would guess the salvage company in this case is going to make significantly more than $10 million, significantly more. Yeah, big business. John H. 2004. Thank you, Jeff. All the news on this has been driving me crazy. I was an Alaskan commercial fisherman and love your Maritime Monday. Well, thank you very much. It's a damn dangerous business. So the Alaskan fishing operations are some seriously when the show Deadliest Catch, it's not it's not too far. It is a deadly job. And wow. Anybody like my friend, he said, I want to go and catch crabs. I'm like, here, watch this show. He's like, yeah, never mind. And Kiernath, $2. It was the Loch Ness Monster or Lizzo, wasn't it? Yeah, could have been Lizzo doing a run across the bridge. That's always a possibility. Never. Well, Lizzo and running probably don't go together in the same sentence. But she's like weirdly athletic for being that big. She's got to burn a bunch of calories. And as a fat person, I just like wonder how much she eats to counteract all of those calories she burns. JKD about Korean alphabet was invented. It's a pretty scientific alphabet. I mean, as far as the structure and how it all fits together. But yeah. All right. I think we are caught up. I'm very close to catching up here. Let's see. Am I being detained? Yes. All right. Scrolling some more here. I'm scrolling as fast as I can, looking for question marks. Oh, we found it. We found a $20 super chat on our way, looking for a question mark. Jillian Ann, how you doing? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As you're from the desert, if Dune Spice was discovered to be a real thing, would you be an attorney for the? Oh, can you imagine if you could charge for spice? See, that's one thing they didn't mention in the movies. Like they're saying, like a briefcase of spice could purchase a planet. So yeah, hell, you get in some of that essentially mafia bucks. The Harkonnens or the Fremen. Be an attorney for the Atreides because not only do they control the spice, they also have a dukedom that they can draw from. The Fremen are poor. They just kind of, kill people. I'd want the money. The Harkonnens, they'd never pay your bills. The Harkonnens would kill you before they paid your legal bills. So definitely the Atreides. Would it simply be whoever pays you the most? Nope. No, it would be the Atreides because they would probably pay you the most. So yeah, I guess the answer is yes, but not for that reason. All right, that was weird. Make a poll, please. What do you think they'll name the new bridge? Francis Scott Key must be hated by this administration. Oh, zing. All right, people. We are at the end of another Maritime Monday. Let me give you a rundown of what's happening next Monday. The 8th, I believe it is. Is it the 8th next Monday or is it the 9th? What is it? Yeah, it's the 8th next Monday. We will be having one of my best friends in the world who was a crewman on board the the SS San Francisco, the submarine San Francisco that was involved in an underwater accident that turned out to be fatal. It was a bad accident. Things happened. He will be here. I wanted him to come back on when the Titanic incident happened to talk about what it's like being underwater when really, really bad things happen. But he couldn't because he was still in the Navy. He's now retired, on to doing other things, and finally has time. So we'll be having him on next week to talk about underwater adventures, accidents, and the San Francisco accident. What's your opinion about Captain Morgan? It's good with Coke. That's about it. Maybe maybe some sort of rum-based drink, but mostly with Coke. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing next Maritime Monday. Will be my dear friend to talk about that. And 2 weeks, hopefully we'll do another update, see if anything has occurred, anything has been. This was a big update because it just happened. I'm assuming there won't be a huge amount to update 2 weeks from now, but we'll do that. And I hope to put together a panel of people. It's just my wild fantasy to put together a panel of 2 or 3 other maritime related channel content producers, just to talk about this, sort of do a roundtable discussion kind of thing. But coming up, like I said, tomorrow we'll be doing another What the Hails stream, where I haven't decided if we want to start the Ohio hearings or if we want to do the contempt hearing against Mark Feather. But one of those two will be happening on Tuesday. Wednesday, we will be doing part 2 of the Virgilio Aguilar Mendez federal lawsuit against the St. Johns County and the police officers that were involved in his beating, tasing, and choking. Thursday will be day 2 of our new old trial, our 2020 trial of Mr. Hartung, who was alleged to have murdered his two half brothers and his mother in a ritualistic witchcraft murder. We'll be doing that. And then Friday, I don't know what I'll do yet, Friday, but that's what's coming up in the next week. Be here for all of that. We'll see you tomorrow for the, I almost forgot to send us over somewhere. Let's see where we can send us all to. Someone mentioned that Andrew Branca was getting involved in the Zachariah Anderson case. My brain's starting to shut down here. We're getting on 2 a.m. It's 2 a.m. here at dawn. Okay. Right. Redirect ad. Who do we got? Potentially Criminals Live, Uncivil Laws Live, Mystery Science Theater, Foreverathon is live, Law of Self-Defense. All right. Let's send us. We mentioned that. We said we'd go over there. Let's send you on over to Andrew Branca at Law of Self-Defense to see what's up. All right, folks, that's it. Join me tomorrow for What the Hails. I'll decide what I'm going to do with that, but we're going to do something with that tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9 a.m. Eastern. Mods, thank you so much for being here. We did an extra long show today, 3.5 hours, almost twice as long as we normally do chat. You guys rock. Everybody here, we had over 1,000 people at one point. There's still 650 of you waiting here, holding out to the very end. On your way out, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll see you tomorrow for more action. Chat, thank you so much for your super amazing generosity with the super chats, the gifted memberships, the purchased memberships, the monthly membership chats. And thank you for just hanging out here, asking good questions, keeping each other entertained, paying attention. Spread the word. This was just an accident. We'll see you all. Love you guys so damn much. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Let's go see what Andrew Branca is doing over at Law of Self-Defense. I love Scotch right under the wire with a $2 super sticker. Done. Thank you so much for that. I love Scotch because I love Scotch too. Bye, everybody.